Forget one for all. Imagine Deku mastering the three-sword style instead. What happens if Izuku Midoriya trades his hero analysis for Zoro's blades and legendary bad sense of direction? I've rewritten the entire UA timeline, and trust me, Bakugo isn't ready for this level of intimidation. Let's slice into it.
Welcome, Legends, to Chronos Recom. I wrote this story myself, so if you have any suggestions or what-ifs you want to see, drop it in the comments below. Also, just wanted to let you know I've got a Patreon set up now for anyone who wants to support the channel directly. You can get early access to stories, submit direct fan requests, and get exclusive content. It's totally optional, but if you want to help keep these stories coming, check it out. Links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell so you never miss an upload. Let's dive into this story.
The morning sun cast long shadows across Tokyo as Izuku Midoriya stood at what he assumed was the entrance to UA High School. The problem was he'd been walking for 3 hours and had somehow ended up on the opposite side of the campus from the main gate. The massive barrier wall stretched before him, easily 20 feet high. Chuch, should have been here an hour ago, he muttered, adjusting the three swords strapped to his waist. His green hair fell across his face, carefully arranged to cover his left eye, always closed, always sealed. He scratched his head, looking left and right down the empty street. Pretty sure the entrance exam is that way? Or was it the other way? He stared at the wall for another moment, then shrugged. His hand gripped the concrete surface, fingers digging into the material like it was soft clay. With casual strength that would have made professional climbers weep, he scaled the 20-foot barrier in seconds, pulling himself over the top and dropping into the campus grounds with a heavy thud that cracked the pavement. There. Problem solved. Inside the auditorium, Present Mike was reaching the climax of his presentation about the practical exam. Hundreds of nervous students filled the seats, hanging on every word about the robot villains they'd face. The door at the back creaked open. Every head turned. Izuku Midoriya walked down the center aisle with the casual gait of someone who'd just woken from a nap. 3 swords hung from his belt, clinking softly with each step. His left eye remained closed, hidden partially by his messy green hair. He wore the visitor's badge crooked and his shirt was untucked. He looked completely unbothered by the hundreds of stares following his late entrance. Well, looks like we have a latecomer. Present Mike's voice boomed through the speakers. Take a seat, listener. We're just wrapping up. Izuku grunted acknowledgement and dropped into the nearest empty seat. The student next to him, a girl with pink skin and horns, scooted away slightly, her eyes fixed on the swords at his hip. As I was saying, Present Mike continued, you'll face 3 types of robots worth different points. But watch out for the 0-pointer. It's just an obstacle, so avoid it and focus on racking up points. Izuku closed his right eye, the only one he ever opened, and leaned back in his seat. Within 30 seconds, soft snoring sounds emanated from his direction. The pink girl stared. Is he sleeping? All right, listeners, head to your designated battle centers. Plus Ultra! The sharp sound of the announcement jolted Izuku awake. He stood, stretched until his spine popped, and shuffled toward the exit with the crowd. The other students gave him a wide berth, unnerved by his presence in ways they couldn't articulate. Something about him felt wrong, dangerous. Like standing next to a caged predator, Battle Center B sprawled before them. A replica city, complete with streets, buildings, and traffic lights. If Izuku found himself surrounded by dozens of other examinees, all stretching and psyching themselves up, he stood apart from the crowd, leaning against a wall with his arms crossed. A tall boy with glasses approached him. Excuse me, those swords you're carrying, are they part of your quirk? I'm trying to analyze potential team compositions and... Not interested. Izuku's voice was flat, dismissive. Go bother someone else. The boy's face flushed. Well, I never... Such rudeness is... Start! Present Mike's voice exploded across the speakers without warning. The other students froze for a split second in surprise. Izuku moved. His right eye snapped open fully as he burst forward with speed that left cracks in the concrete beneath his feet. The air itself seemed to ripple around him as he ran, a faint purple haze following in his wake. He reached behind his head and pulled a green bandana from his pocket, tying it around his forehead with practiced ease. "Time to work," he muttered. A three-pointer robot rounded the corner ahead, its targeting systems locking onto Izuku. It raised its arm cannon. Izuku's hand moved to the white-handled sword at his side, Wado Ichimonji, Quina's blade. In one fluid motion, he drew it and placed the blade between his teeth horizontally. His hands moved to his other two swords, the Black Enma and the demon-marked Sandai Kitetsu. Three blades gleamed in the sunlight, Santoryu stance. The robot fired. Izuku didn't dodge. He crossed his swords in front of his chest, then slashed outward in a spinning motion. Santoryu, Onigiri. Shing, shing, shing. Three arcs of compressed air exploded from his blades, visible as distortions in reality itself. The energy slashes hit the robot simultaneously from three different angles. Metal shrieked. The three-pointer didn't just fall apart, it was carved into 9 perfect pieces that scattered across the street. Izuku landed in a crouch, already moving toward his next target. Behind him, other students were just now starting to engage the robots with their quirks. Explosions, ice, and various other effects filled the air. Izuku paid them no attention. His focus narrowed to a razor's edge. A two-pointer emerged from an alley. Izuku's blade flashed, a casual horizontal slash. The robot's torso separated from its legs so cleanly that it remained upright for a full second before toppling, crash, 3 one-pointers ahead. Izuku spun his swords in a windmill pattern like building momentum. Toragari, slash! A massive X-shaped energy wave carved through all 3 robots simultaneously. The bisected machines sparked and collapsed. The shockwave from the attack shattered windows in the surrounding buildings. Boring, Izuku muttered around the sword in his teeth. These things are weaker than the thugs in back alleys. He continued his path of destruction through Battle Center B, leaving a trail of dismembered robots in his wake. Other students watched in shock as the green-haired swordsman moved through the exam like a force of nature. His movements were economical, efficient, no wasted motion, no hesitation. A girl with a creation quirk, Momo Yao Yorozu, had created a bow staff and was methodically taking down a two-pointer when she heard a sound like thunder. She turned just in time to see Izuku leap 50 feet into the air, arc through the sky, and bring all 3 swords down on a cluster of robots below. Tatsumaki. Boom. He spun like a tornado, blades extended. The resulting whirlwind of cutting force didn't just destroy the robots, it carved a perfect circular trench into the street 15 feet across. Chunks of asphalt and metal flew in all directions. The wind pressure alone knocked over robots 100 feet away. Izuku landed in the center of the crater, not even breathing hard. Momo stared, her bow staff hanging limply in her hands. What? What kind of quirk? The practical exam had been running for barely 4 minutes. Izuku had already accumulated 78 villain points. He was getting bored. Then the ground started shaking. Doom! 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 The zero-pointer emerged from behind a building, a massive robot, easily 8 stories tall, designed to make students flee in terror. Its shadow fell across the street like nightfall. Red eyes glowed as it scanned for targets. Students screamed and ran. Izuku tilted his head, looking up at the giant with his one open eye. Seriously, they want us to run from this thing? He sighed, a long, suffering sound. What a waste of time. The zero-pointer's targeting system locked onto Izuku, identifying him as the closest target, its massive arm raised, preparing to smash down. Izuku didn't reach for his swords. Instead, his eyes scanned the rubble around him until he spotted a piece of rebar sticking out of the broken concrete. He walked over casually, gripped it and yanked it free. The metal was maybe 4 feet long and bent in the middle. This'll do. Not wasting my good blades on trash. His hand tightened around the rebar. Purple-black energy began to flow from his palm, coating the metal like liquid shadow. The air temperature dropped 10 degrees instantly. Students still in the vicinity felt their breath catch, their instincts screaming at them to run. This was armament hockey, though Izuku would never call it that. To the world, it was simply an advanced application of his quirk. The zero-pointer's fist came down like a meteor. Izuku raised the rebar overhead with both hands, his stance widening. The muscles in his arms tensed. His right eye blazed with focus. Great dragon shock. Shing! He swung the rebar down in a perfect vertical slash. The world went silent. Then reality caught up. Crack, boom, whom! A shockwave of pure cutting force erupted from the rebar's arc. The attack traveled upward in a straight line, a blade of compressed air and will given physical form. It hit the zero-pointer's descending fist, carved through it like paper, continued through the arm, through the torso, through the head, and exploded into the sky. The zero-pointer didn't collapse. It split. Perfectly. Down the exact center, from top to bottom, as if a god had taken a cosmic blade and bisected it with surgical precision. The two halves stood for a moment, systems sparking, before slowly, almost gracefully toppling in opposite directions. Crash! Crash! The impact shook the entire battle center. Dust and debris filled the air. But that wasn't all. Above Tokyo, the clouds that had been drifting peacefully across the sky suddenly parted. A perfectly straight line cut through the cloud cover for miles, creating a tunnel of blue sky. The shockwave from Izuku's attack had traveled so far and with such force that it had physically displaced the atmosphere. Izuku dropped the now crumpled rebar and dusted off his hands. He looked around at the devastation, the bisected zero-pointer, the carved street, the fleeing students, and yawned. Still boring. He spotted Momo standing frozen nearby, her eyes wider than dinner plates. He walked over to her, and she actually flinched. "Hey!" he said around the sword still in his mouth. He removed Wado Ichimonji and hung it back at his belt. "Which way to the cafeteria? I'm hungry." Momo's mouth opened and closed several times. No sound came out. Her brain had completely short-circuited trying to process what she just witnessed. "Right. Useless." Izuku scratched his head and looked around. "I'll just pick a direction." He walked off, leaving Momo standing in shock. She watched his retreating form, then looked at the split zero-pointer, then back at Izuku. "Who? What? That's not possible," she whispered. 30 minutes later, in the observation room overlooking all the battle centers, Present Mike sat in stunned silence. Beside him, All Might had arrived just in time to watch the recordings of Battle Center B's conclusion on the monitors. Did that kid just... Present Mike trailed off. Split the zero-pointer in half. All Might finished, his voice grave, with a piece of rebar. Nezu entered the room, his paws clasped behind his back. The diminutive principal's expression was unreadable as he watched the replay. The camera angle from above showed the perfect bisection, the shockwave, the parting clouds. "That's him, isn't it?" All Might asked quietly. "The one-eyed demon." "Izuku Midoriya," Nezu confirmed. Age 15. Quirk Purgatory. Mutation type that grants him physical capabilities far beyond normal human limitation, combined with what he calls a demonic aura. He's also a master swordsman trained in Santoryu, the three-sword style. Present Mick pulled up another screen showing Izuku's file. The hero's eyes widened as he read. "This says 300 villains in one night by himself?" "The massacre incident," Nezu said softly. 1 year ago, a villain syndicate attacked his dojo seeking revenge. They killed everyone inside, including his childhood rival and oath sister, Quina. When young Midoriya discovered what had happened, he tracked the syndicate to their hideout. All Might's jaw tightened, and killed them all. Indeed, all 300. The building they were using as a base was found sliced into pieces. The media dubbed him the one-eyed demon due to the reported phenomenon of his left eye opening during the attack. Nezu pulled up crime scene photos. These were taken by the first responders. The images showed destruction that looked more like a natural disaster than a fight. A skyscraper sliced into ribbons, bodies everywhere. And in the center, a green-haired teenager sleeping on top of a mountain of corpses, 3 swords arranged neatly beside him, covered head to toe in blood. Most wanted him tried as a villain, Nezu continued. But I saw potential. A young man consumed by rage and grief, yes, but one with his own code of honor. I offered him a place at UA, a chance to channel that overwhelming power toward heroism instead of revenge. And if he refuses, All Might asked, then we have the strongest villain in Japan's history. Nezu's voice was matter-of-fact. Young Midoriya is, quite simply, the most powerful individual I have ever encountered. His quirk alone puts him on par with top pro heroes. Combined with his swordsmanship and his unique mental state, he may be unmatched. They watched the replay again. Izuku's casual dismissal of the zero-pointer, the perfect bisection, the parting clouds. He didn't even use his real swords, Present Mike noted, his voice hollow. That was just rebar. Indeed, his 3 blades are apparently cursed, according to his own description. Wado Ichimonji, Enma, and Sandai Kitetsu. He reserves them for opponents he deems worthy. Nezu adjusted his glasses. The zero-pointer wasn't worthy. All Might stood, his massive frame somehow seeming smaller. What about his left eye? You said he opened it during the massacre incident? According to his statement, keeping his left eye closed acts as a limiter on his power. When both eyes are open, his quirk's true form manifests. Based on the destruction from that night, Nezu paused. I believe opening that eye would result in catastrophic damage to anything within several miles. The room fell silent except for the hum of electronics. We need to watch him carefully, All Might said finally. If he's here to become a hero, I'll support that. But if he shows signs of falling back into darkness, then we'll deal with it, Nezu finished. For now, young Midoriya has my trust. Let's see if UA can help him find a better path. On the screen, the replay showed Izuku walking away from the destroyed zero-pointer, already lost and heading in the wrong direction entirely. 3 days later, Izuku stood in the UA courtyard staring at a map of the campus. He'd been trying to find Class 1A for 20 minutes. The map made no sense. North seemed to change depending on which way he held the paper. Should be this building. He looked up at the structure in front of him. Or maybe that one. A familiar voice called out, "Oi! Sword guy!" Izuku turned to see a spiky-haired blonde approaching with his hands in his pockets. The boy's red eyes gleamed with challenge and barely suppressed aggression. Izuku recognized him from the exam. He'd been the one making all those explosions. "What?" Izuku asked flatly. "Name's Katsuki Bakugo," the blonde said, stopping a few feet away. "I got the most villain points in the exam, 120. I'm gonna be #1 at this school." Izuku stared at him for a long moment. "Good for you. Now move. You're blocking my view of the map." Bakugo's eye twitched. "The hell? Did you not hear me?" I said. "I heard you, loud brat. You want to be #1. Cool. I'm trying to find my classroom. You're in my way." Izuku's tone was completely bored, as if discussing the weather. "Loud brat?" Bakugo's palms sparked with small explosions. "You think you're better than me? I don't think anything about you. I don't know you." Izuku finally looked directly at Bakugo with his one open eye. "Now move before you do something stupid." The purple haze began leaking from Izuku's body, just a wisp, barely visible. But Bakugo felt it. His instincts screamed at him. Every nerve in his body told him to back away from this predator. But Katsuki Bakugo had never backed down from anything in his life. "You want to go?" His hands sparked brighter. "I'll show you who's..." A scarf wrapped around Bakugo's arms, pinning them to his sides. The explosions fizzled out. Both boys turned to see a tired-looking man with long black hair and a scarf that seemed alive. "Fighting before class even starts. Wonderful." The man's voice dripped with sarcasm. "I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. You two are both in Class 1A. Follow me before I expel you on the first day." He turned and walked away without waiting for acknowledgement. Bakugo struggled against the capture weapon for a moment before it released him. He shot Izuku a glare that promised future conflict, then stomped after Aizawa. Izuku shrugged and followed. At least now he knew where the classroom was. Class 1A turned out to be a standard classroom filled with unusual students. Izuku spotted the pink girl from the entrance exam, the glasses boy who tried to talk to him, Momo, the creation quirk user, and various others. His arrival drew immediate attention. "That's him," someone whispered. "The one who split the zero-pointer. I heard he killed 300 villains last year. Is that true? He doesn't look that scary." Izuku ignored the whispers and made his way to an empty seat near the back. He sat down, crossed his arms on the desk, and immediately put his head down. Aizawa stood at the front of the classroom, looking over his new students with the expression of someone already regretting their career choices. "Right. Before we do anything else, we're doing a quirk apprehension test." The class erupted in protest. "But what about the entrance ceremony?" "The orientation. Put on your gym uniforms and meet me outside in 5 minutes," Aizawa said, his voice cutting through the noise. "Anyone who complains gets expelled." The classroom went silent. "Good. Move." The gym uniforms were simple blue tracksuits. Izuku kept his 3 swords strapped to his waist despite the looks he got from other students. When he arrived at the training field, Aizawa was already there holding a softball. This is a comprehensive test of your quirk capabilities, the teacher explained. 8 different trials. Whoever places last in overall rankings gets expelled immediately. More protests erupted. Izuku, leaning against a fence with his eye closed, didn't react. Life isn't fair. Hero work isn't fair. If you can't handle that, leave now. Aizawa's red eyes scanned the class. Bakugo, you had the highest villain points in the entrance exam. Step up. Show everyone what you can do with the softball throw. Bakugo smirked and took the ball. He wound up, his palm already sparking. Die! Boom! The explosion launched the softball into the stratosphere. Aizawa's device beeped, 705.3 meters. The class oohed and awed. Bakugo looked smug. Now then, Aizawa said, his gaze landing on Izuku. Midoriya, your turn. Izuku opened his right eye lazily. Pass. Excuse me? I said pass. I'll do the other tests. This one's boring. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. His scarf began to float as his hair lifted. Red eyes activated. Erasure quirk. This isn't optional, Midoriya. Either participate or... The moment Erasure quirk activated and targeted Izuku, the air temperature plummeted. Doomed. A wave of pressure exploded outward from Izuku's body. It wasn't physical, but every student felt it, a crushing weight on their souls. The ground beneath Izuku's feet cracked. His closed left eye twitched, and through the sealed lid, a faint purple light began to glow. Aizawa's quirk was still active, but nothing happened to Izuku. If anything, the pressure increased. The teacher's survival instincts, honed through years of underground hero work, screamed at him. His brain registered what his quirk was telling him. There was nothing to erase. This wasn't a quirk in the traditional sense. This was something else. Something wrong. Something that shouldn't exist. He deactivated erasure immediately. The pressure vanished like it had never been. Izuku stood casually, hand resting on the hilt of one of his swords, his expression neutral. You can't erase a demon, Sensei, Izuku said quietly. His voice carried across the silent field. This isn't a quirk you gave me, it's what I am. The class stared in shocked silence. Aizawa's hands had actually trembled, just for a moment. Fine, the teacher said, his voice carefully controlled. Do the throw. Izuku caught the softball Aizawa tossed to him. He looked at it for a moment, then at the sky, calculating. He took a deep breath, then he wound up and threw. No quirk, no fancy techniques, just pure, overwhelming physical strength. Boom! The sound barrier broke. The softball became a projectile moving faster than bullets, faster than sound. It punched through the atmosphere, trailing a cone of compressed air visible for miles. The sonic boom shattered windows in buildings blocks away. Aizawa's device beeped. Then the screen flickered. Then it displayed, error, distance incalculable, object left measurable range. The ball left Earth's gravity well, Aizawa said flatly. It's in orbit. Someone in the class gasped. That's impossible. For the sake of scoring, we'll call that infinite distance. Aizawa pocketed the device. Everyone else, step up. Let's keep this moving. The rest of the tests proceeded with similar displays of quirk power, though nothing came close to Izuku's throw. He dominated every category through sheer physical capability. 50-meter dash, 2.1 seconds. He'd moved so fast, the timing equipment nearly failed to register him. Grip strength, 890 kilograms. The measuring device maxed out and broke. Standing long jump, cleared the entire sandbox and landed in the fence on the far side. Repeated side steps. The ground where he'd been moving was carved into trenches from the force of his steps. By the time they reached the ball throw portion for everyone, the class had split into 2 groups. Those who feared Izuku and those who were in awe of him. Often both, Bakugo, standing with his arms crossed, glared at Izuku's back. The green-haired swordsman hadn't even broken a sweat. Worse, he looked bored. All right, Aizawa announced. Here are the rankings. A holographic screen appeared showing the results. Izuku Midoriya, Momo Yayorozu, Katsuki Bako Shoto Todoroki. The last place person was... Aizawa paused. Mineta, you're expelled. A short purple-haired student burst into tears. However, Aizawa continued, that was a logical ruse to make you give your maximum effort. No one's actually expelled. The class erupted in relieved chatter. Izuku had already started walking toward the changing rooms. Wait! Bakugo's voice cut through the noise. Izuku stopped but didn't turn around. Don't you dare walk away from me! Bakugo charged forward, palms sparking. I'm not done with. His words cut off as Izuku's hand shot out and caught Bakugo's wrist mid-lunge. The blonde's eyes widened. Izuku's grip was like an iron vice. He turned his head slightly, his one open eye regarding Bakugo with complete indifference. "You're loud," Izuku said simply. Then he yanked Bakugo forward and down, slamming the blonde face first into the dirt with enough force to create a small crater. He held Bakugo there with just one hand, pinned like an insect. "Be quiet." Bakugo struggled, explosions popping against Izuku's arm. The green-haired boy didn't even flinch. The explosions that had destroyed robots in the entrance exam didn't leave so much as a scorch mark on his skin. "Next time you interrupt my nap, I'll cut off that loud mouth." Izuku's voice was calm, almost conversational. But something in his tone made it clear this wasn't an idle threat. He released Bakugo and continued walking toward the changing rooms, leaving the blonde sputtering in the dirt. Aizawa watched the exchange with narrowed eyes. He'd need to write a detailed report about Midoriya tonight. Nezu needed to know that the boy's power was even more concerning up close. As the class dispersed, Momo found herself walking next to a boy with red and white hair split down the middle. Shoto Todoroki, the son of the number 2 hero Endeavor. "That Midoriya person," Todoroki said quietly. "He's dangerous." "Dangerous?" Momo repeated. "His power is absurd, but more than that." Todoroki's heterochromatic eyes tracked Izuku's retreating form. "He carries himself like someone who's already decided he's the strongest, not arrogance. Certainty." "You sound like you want to challenge him." Todoroki's left side sparked with small flames. "I'm going to be the number 1 hero without using my father's power. That means surpassing everyone at this school, including him." Momo said nothing, but she remembered the bisected zero-pointer. The parted clouds. She had a feeling that Todoroki had no idea what he was getting into. In the changing room, Izuku removed his gym uniform and changed back into his regular clothes. The other male students gave him a wide berth, shooting glances at the scars covering his torso, a roadmap of violence etched into his skin. "Hey, Midoriya," a friendly voice called out. Izuku looked over to see a boy with bright red hair and sharp teeth grinning at him. "That was manly as hell out there!" "Name's Eijiro Kirishima." "Okay," Izuku said, pulling his shirt on. "Your quirk is seriously awesome, and those swords, are you actually a samurai or something?" "Swordsman, not a samurai. What's the difference?" Izuku's expression didn't change. "A samurai serves a master, a swordsman walks his own path." Kirishima's grin widened. "That's so cool. Hey, we should spar sometime. I've got this hardening quirk that..." "No. Aw, come on. Just a friendly. You're too weak. It would be boring." Izuku's words were matter-of-fact, without malice. He stated it the same way someone might comment on the weather. Kirishima's grin faltered. Okay then." Izuku finished dressing, strapped his 3 swords to his waist, and left the changing room without another word. Kirishima stood there looking dejected until another student, a blonde boy with a black lightning bolt in his hair, patted his shoulder. "Don't take it personally, man," Denki Kaminari said. "That dude's on a whole different level. Like, scary different." "Yeah," Kirishima agreed quietly. "Did you feel that pressure earlier? When Aizawa-sensei tried to erase his quirk? Felt like something was sitting on my chest. Couldn't breathe properly." Kaminari shuddered. "Whatever Midoriya is, I don't think human is the right word." The next day, Class 1A filed into their homeroom expecting normal classes. Instead, they found All Might standing at the front in his hero costume, his smile as brilliant as ever. "I am coming through the door like a normal person." The number 1 hero struck a pose. "Today's lesson will be battle training." The class erupted in excitement. All Might gestured to the wall where numbered cases slid out. "These are your hero costumes, designed based on your specifications. Get changed and meet me at Training Ground Beta." Students rushed to grab their cases. Izuku picked up case number 14 and headed to the changing rooms with the others. When they reconvened at Training Ground Beta, the variety of costume designs was impressive. Bakugo wore a costume covered in grenade-like gauntlets. Todoroki had a simple ice and fire-themed outfit. Momo wore an outfit that showed her midriff for her creation, Quirk, and Izuku. Izuku wore black pants and a black fighting GI with a green sash tied around his waist. His 3 swords hung from the sash in their usual positions. The only additions were black combat boots and a green Haori jacket with Demon King written on the back in kanji. His green bandana was tied around his left bicep. The outfit was simple practical, and somehow made him look even more dangerous. Wonderful. All Might boomed. Now then, for today's training, you'll be split into teams of 2, heroes versus villains in indoor combat scenarios. He produced a box with lettered balls. We'll draw lots for teams and matchups. The randomization resulted in various pairings. When All Might read out the matchups, the air in the training ground grew tense. Team A, Midoriya and Uraraka. You'll be the villains. A brunette girl with a cheerful face waved nervously at Izuku. He glanced at her and grunted acknowledgement. Your opponents will be Team B, Todoroki and Mezzo Shoji. Todoroki's eyes locked onto Izuku. This was the opportunity he'd been waiting for. The villain team will guard a mock nuclear weapon on the top floor of the building. The hero team must either capture the villains or touch the weapon within 15 minutes. Villains win by running out the clock or incapacitating the heroes. All Might gestured to a 5-story concrete building. Take your positions. Izuku and Uraraka entered the building and climbed to the top floor. The weapon, a large prop missile, sat in the center of an empty room. So, Uraraka began nervously. Do you have a strategy or... Stay near the weapon, Izuku said, leaning against the wall. When they come, get out of the way. That's it? Shouldn't we plan more? The one with the dual-colored hair, he's strong and stronger than the others in our class. Izuku closed his right eye, preparing to nap, but not strong enough. How do you know he's coming for you instead of the weapon? Because that's what I would do. Take out the strongest enemy first. Outside, Todoroki and Shoji stood at the building entrance. The larger students' duplicate arms were already spreading out for reconnaissance. I'll locate them, Shoji offered. No need. Todoroki's right side began frosting over. I'm ending this in one move. He placed his palm on the ground. Crack! Ice exploded through the building. It wasn't normal ice, this was Todoroki's quirk at full power, creating a glacier that filled entire floors in seconds. The ice spread through hallways, upstairs, filling every space with sub-zero temperatures. On the top floor, Uraraka screamed as the ice burst through the walls. It's everywhere. Izuku opened his eye as frost covered the walls around him. The ice was spreading fast, about to encase him completely. Cute, he muttered. He drew Wado Ichimonji with his right hand. The white blade gleamed. He didn't move from his leaning position against the wall, didn't change his stance. Just gripped the sword and swung. Shing! The ice shattered. Not just the ice around him, the entire glacier Todoroki had created. A shockwave of pure cutting force traveled through the structure, bisecting the ice perfectly down the middle. The frozen halves fell away, crashing to the floor in enormous chunks. Todoroki, still at the entrance, watched in shock as his ice sculpture of a victory fell apart. Impossible, he breathed. Through the settling frost and mist, Izuku's voice echoed down the stairwell. Your ice is weak. Try harder. Todoroki's jaw clenched. His pride as Endeavor's son wouldn't accept this. He charged into the building, ice forming beneath his feet to slide him forward at high speed. He burst onto the top floor to find Izuku waiting, sword sheathed, standing casually with his arms crossed. Took you long enough? Izuku said. I almost fell asleep again. Don't mock me. Todoroki thrust his right hand forward. Ice spears erupted from the ground, dozens of them, all aimed at impaling Izuku. Izuku's hand moved to Sandai Kitetsu's hilt. Slash, one draw cut. The ice spears shattered into powder before they crossed half the distance. Izuku sheathed the sword in the same motion. Is that all? His tone was bored. The number 2 hero's son only has ice? Todoroki's left side sparked with flames, his father's power, but he suppressed them immediately, his face twisting with anger and internal conflict. I won't use his power. I'll never use his power. I'll show everyone I can become the number 1 hero with my ice alone. Izuku tilted his head. So you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back because of daddy issues? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Shut up! Todoroki created a massive ice wall and sent it sliding forward like a tsunami. The frozen wave would crush anything in its path. Izuku sighed. He untied the green bandana from his bicep and wrapped it around his forehead, the signal that he was done playing around. He drew all 3 swords, Wado Ichimonji in his mouth, Enma in his right hand, Sandai Kitetsu in his left, Santoryu stance. Santoryu Ogi. His voice was muffled slightly by the sword between his teeth. 3,000 worlds! Shing, 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 shing! He spun. His entire body became a whirlwind of cutting force as all three blades rotated in a devastating pattern. The ice tsunami hit the attack and simply ceased to exist, sliced into particles so fine they evaporated into mist. But the attack didn't stop there. The spiraling cuts continued outward, carving through the walls of the building, through the floor, through everything. Chunks of concrete fell away. The structural integrity of the entire top floor vanished. Todoroki tried to dodge, but the wind pressure alone was too strong. It picked him up and slammed him into the wall hard enough to crack the concrete. He slumped, unconscious before he hit the ground. The building groaned. Uraraka, who'd been hiding behind the prop weapon, looked around in terror as the ceiling started to collapse. Izuku sheathed his swords with 3 simultaneous click sounds. He grabbed Todoroki's unconscious form with one hand and Uraraka with the other, then jumped. They fell 4 stories. Izuku landed in a crouch, the impact cratering the ground. He set both of them down gently, then walked away. Villain team wins. All Might's voice came over the speakers, though the number 1 hero sounded slightly shocked. Time, 4 minutes, 37 seconds. Izuku left the building and found the rest of Class 1A staring at him. Behind him, the top floor of the training building slowly collapsed inward, structural damage too severe to remain standing. That was... All Might searched for words. Overwhelming. Young Midoriya, your power is incredible, but please be mindful of collateral damage in the future. He attacked first with the ice, Izuku said with a shrug. I just defended harder. Todoroki was carried to Recovery Girl on a stretcher, frost burns on his back, and a concussion from hitting the wall. When he woke up 2 hours later, the first thing he said was, I need to get stronger. The battle trials continued through the rest of the day. Bakugo's team fought Midoriya's team from the entrance exam. The blonde fought with vicious intensity, but Izuku's partner, a cheerful boy named Hanta Sero, managed to capture one of the opponents while Bakugo destroyed half the building. When the final match concluded, All Might gathered the students. Today you learned an important lesson. Power without control is meaningless, but control without power is equally useless. The best heroes find the balance. His eyes lingered on Izuku, who was already half asleep leaning against a wall. Young Midoriya, your power is extraordinary, but remember, being a hero isn't just about winning fights, it's about saving people with a smile. Izuku opened one eye. Can't smile when I'm bored, All Might Sensei. Then I'll just have to make sure your training is never boring. The number 1 hero's laughter echoed across the training ground. Izuku closed his eye again, tuning it out. Later that evening, in a bar in a seedier part of town, a teenager with light blue hair and hands covering his body sat watching the news on a cracked television screen. The report showed footage from the sports festival announcement, including brief highlights of the entrance exam's most impressive students. Izuku's zero-pointer bisection played in slow motion. Tomura Shigaraki's eyes widened behind the hand covering his face. That's him, he whispered. The one-eyed demon. A voice emerged from the shadows. Deep, powerful, belonging to someone who radiated menace even when unseen. You recognize him, Tomura? The news from last year, 300 villains dead in one night. They called him a monster. A demon. Shigaraki's fingers twitched, his decay quirk unconsciously activating on the bar counter beneath his hand. All for one, Sensei, that power, if we could turn him to our side. Impossible. The voice cut him off. That boy is broken in ways that make him useless to us. His loyalty cannot be bought or manipulated. His mind is fractured around a single purpose. Then we kill him before he becomes a problem. No, Tomura, we test him. Send the Nomu when the opportunity arises. See if the legends about his true power are accurate. Shigaraki grinned behind the hand mask. And if they are, then we'll know what kind of monster UA is harboring. The television continued its report, now showing highlights of various UA students. But Shigaraki's eyes remained fixed on the frozen image of Izuku Midoriya, 3 swords at his waist, one eye closed, standing atop the bisected zero-pointer. The one-eyed demon, he repeated. This'll be fun. The next 2 weeks at UA passed in relative peace. Izuku continued to excel in every physical challenge while remaining thoroughly average in academic classes, not because he was stupid, but because he simply didn't care about subjects that didn't involve fighting. And that's how the Hero Public Safety Commission maintains oversight of Midoriya, are you sleeping? Present Mike's voice boomed through the classroom. Izuku's head was down on his desk, soft snoring sounds emanating from his direction. This is the third time this week. Present Mick threw a piece of chalk that bounced off of Izuku's head. The green-haired boy didn't even twitch. Bakugo, sitting 2 rows over, had gone from constantly challenging Izuku to just glaring at him with barely suppressed rage. Every attempt to prove himself superior had resulted in humiliation. The blonde's pride was in tatters. Momo watched Izuku with a mixture of fascination and concern. How could someone so powerful be so unmotivated? It didn't make sense to her orderly mind. Ida, the glasses-wearing boy, had given up trying to get Izuku to follow rules. The swordsman operated on his own code of conduct that had nothing to do with regulations. Only a few students had managed to have actual conversations with Izuku. Kirishima, despite being rejected as a sparring partner, continued to be friendly. Tsuyu Asui, a girl with a frog quirk, approached everything with practical curiosity and seemed unbothered by Izuku's intensity. And then there was Ochako Uraraka, his partner from the battle trial. She'd been terrified at first, but after seeing how Izuku had carefully grabbed her and Todoroki during the building collapse, she realized he wasn't cruel, just incredibly powerful and utterly direct. Midoriya-kun, she said during lunch one day, sitting across from him in the cafeteria. Izuku looked up from his third bowl of rice. What? Why do you want to be a hero? He stopped eating. His visible right eye stared at her for a long moment. The question seemed to catch him off guard. I don't want to be a hero, he said finally. But you're at UA, I'm here because Nezu gave me a choice, UA or prison. Izuku's voice was matter of fact. After what I did, most people wanted me locked up. Nezu offered another path. What you did. Uraraka's voice was small. The 300 villains? They killed my crew, my family, my rival. His grip tightened on his chopsticks. Quina was stronger than me. Faster. Better with a blade. We swore an oath to become the strongest swordsman in the world together. What happened to her? She died while I was lost. I couldn't protect her because I walked in the wrong direction for 3 days. His voice was flat, emotionless, but his knuckles were white around the chopsticks. So I killed everyone responsible, all 300, hunted them down and cut them apart. Uraraka's eyes were wide. That's horrible. Yeah, he resumed eating. It was. Then why, I'm not here to be a hero, Roundface. I'm here to get stronger. Strong enough that when I find the next crew worth protecting, I won't fail them. He met her eyes. Strong enough that my enemies pray I never open my left eye. She noticed then, truly noticed, how his green hair deliberately covered the left side of his face, how he'd never once opened that eye. The closed lid never so much as twitched. What happens if you open it? Izuku's expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted. A weight pressed down on Uraraka's shoulders for just a moment. Everything dies. He stood, picking up his tray. Thanks for the talk, Roundface. Don't ask about that again. He left her sitting there, heart pounding, suddenly very aware of exactly what kind of person Izuku Midoriya truly was. The class schedule showed a field trip to the USJ, unforeseen simulation joint, for rescue training. The students boarded buses with excitement, chattering about what scenarios they'd face. Izuku sat alone at the back of the bus, arms crossed, already dozing. He'd been assigned Bus Group A along with most of his classmates. Hey, Midoriya, Tsuyu said, sitting in the seat across the aisle. You're always sleeping. Do you have narcolepsy or something? Just bored, he muttered without opening his eye. Wake me when we get there. Kirishima leaned over the seat. Dude, how can you be bored? We're going to train for rescues. That's what heroes do. I'm not a hero, but you're at hero school. Didn't say I was a good student either. Bakugo, sitting several rows up, slammed his fist into his seat. Would you stop acting like you're better than everyone? I don't act, Izuku said without opening his eye. I am better. That's just reality. You arrogant. Bakugo, sit down. Ida's voice cut through the blonde's rising anger. We're almost there. Everyone prepare to disembark properly. The bus pulled up to a massive dome structure that looked like a cross between a stadium and a disaster zone. When they entered, the students gasped at the sheer scale of the facility. Inside were multiple disaster zones, a shipwreck area, a landslide zone, a conflagration zone, and more. At the center was a large plaza with stairs and a central fountain, A hero in a spacesuit design greeted them. 13, the rescue specialist. Welcome to the USJ. Today you'll learn that hero work isn't just about fighting villains. Sometimes saving people from disasters is... 13's words cut off as the lights flickered. In the central plaza below, a portal of dark purple and black energy opened. Figures began stepping through, dozens of them. Some looked like street thugs, others were clearly mutant-type quirk users. They spread out, armed with weapons and malicious intent. At the center of the group stood a teenager with hands covering his body and a man made of purple mist. Aizawa's expression hardened. 13, get the students out. Call for backup. But sir, you can't fight all those? Go! The scruffy teacher jumped down to the plaza level, his scarf already extending to catch the nearest villains. His erasure quirk activated, canceling out power left and right, but there were too many. At least 50 villains filled the plaza. Izuku opened his right eye. He watched Aizawa fighting below, watched the villains spreading out, watched a massive figure emerge from the portal, something huge and muscular with an exposed brain. Nomu, the hand-covered teenager, called out, "Kill the kids. Leave the green-haired one with the swords for last. I want to see him suffer." The Nomu screeched, an inhuman sound that echoed through the dome. It had dark skin, a bird-like beak, and muscles that bulged unnaturally. This was no normal villain. Everyone, run! 13 shouted, herding students toward the exit. But the mist villain, Kurogiri, appeared in front of the doors. "I'm afraid I can't let you leave. My orders are quite clear." Bakugo and Kirishima attacked immediately, explosions and hardened fists flying. But Kurogiri's mist body was intangible. With a wave, portals opened beneath groups of students, scattering them throughout the USJ to different disaster zones. Izuku watched Uraraka fall through a portal toward the landslide zone. Saw Bakugo and Kirishima get separated toward the ruins zone. The class was being divided and conquered. In the central plaza, Aizawa was fighting valiantly, but being overwhelmed. The Nomu watched him with predatory eyes, waiting for an opening. 13 tried to use Black Hole on Kurogiri, but the villain reversed the attack. The spacesuit tore and 13 collapsed, injured. It was chaos. Students scattered, teacher down, hero outmatched. Izuku stood at the entrance stairs, watching it all with his single open eye. Then he sighed, a long put-up and sound. "I was having a nice dream about booze," he muttered. He reached up and untied his green bandana, wrapping it around his forehead. His hand moved to Enma's hilt, his cursed black blade. "You people woke me up." Shing! He drew the sword. Black energy immediately coated the blade as armament haki activated. The air around Izuku shimmered with heat despite the temperature not changing. Shigaraki, watching from the plaza below, grinned behind his hand mask. "There he is, the one-eyed demon. Nomu, when he gets down here, tear him." His words cut off because Izuku had vanished from the entrance stairs. Boom! He reappeared in the center of the plaza, having covered the distance in a single leap. The impact of his landing shattered the concrete in a 20-foot radius. Cracks spider-webbed outward from his feet. Every villain in the immediate area stumbled from the shockwave. Aizawa, fighting 3 villains at once, felt the pressure and knew immediately what it meant. "No," the teacher breathed. "Not here. Not now." But it was too late. Izuku stood in the crater his landing had created, Enma held loosely in one hand. His closed left eye was covered by his green hair as always. Purple-black energy began leaking from his body, just wisps at first, like smoke from a campfire. The Nomu turned its attention to Izuku. It tilted its head, analyzing this new target. Shigaraki's grin widened. "Perfect, Nomu, show him why." "Quiet," Izuku said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Every villain in the plaza heard it, felt it. "You came into my school, attacked my teacher, separated my crew." His visible right eye fixed on Shigaraki. "You woke me up from my nap." The purple-black aura intensified. It was no longer wisps, it was a rolling cloud of malevolent energy that spread from Izuku's body like floodwater. The temperature didn't drop, it plummeted. Frost began forming on the ground despite no ice packets, quirk being present. Every low-level villain in the plaza felt it. Primal, instinctive terror. The lizard part of their brains that had kept their ancestors alive by knowing when to run from predators screamed at them to flee. Several did. They simply turned and ran, abandoning the mission entirely. Shigaraki's grin faltered. What is this?" Aizawa knew. He'd felt it during the quirk apprehension test. This was Izuku Midoriya when he decided to stop holding back. The Nomu didn't feel fear. It was engineered to be fearless, to fight until destroyed. It screeched and charged Izuku with blinding speed, faster than most heroes could react. Izuku didn't move. The Nomu's fist came down like a meteor. Boom! The impact created a shockwave that blew back every nearby villain. Dust and debris filled the air. For a moment, nothing was visible. Then the dust cleared. Izuku stood exactly where he'd been. The Nomu's fist was stopped inches from his face, caught in Izuku's left hand. The green-haired boy hadn't even shifted his stance. "That tickled," Izuku said flatly. With casual strength, he swung his arm, still holding the Nomu's fist. The bioengineered monster weighing several hundred pounds was lifted off the ground and slammed into the concrete like a doll. Crash! The plaza floor cracked. The Nomu's body created a crater, but it immediately regenerated. The broken bones healed in seconds. It stood back up, screeching again. Oh, Izuku observed. "You have regeneration, shock absorption too, based on how my hand didn't turn your arm to paste." He gripped Enma tighter. The black energy coating the blade intensified. "That's cute. Let's see if you can regenerate from this." He swung. A casual one-handed slash, shing. The black blade cut through the air. A wave of compressed cutting force, visible as a distortion in reality itself, flew from the sword's path. It hit the Nomu dead center. Slash! The creature's torso split. Not cleanly like a knife through butter, but catastrophically, the wound cauterized by the sheer forces of the attack before blood could even flow. The Nomu stumbled, then began regenerating. Flesh knitted back together. "Impressive," Izuku admitted. "Most things don't get back up from that." Shigaraki was backing away now, his earlier confidence evaporating. "Impossible. The Nomu was designed to fight All Might. It has quirks specifically chosen to..." "All Might?" Izuku's right eye fixed on Shigaraki. For the first time, genuine emotion entered his voice. Disdain. "You think your science project can fight All Might?" He reached behind his head with his free hand. His fingers touched the hair, covering his left eye. "You want to see hell?" Shigaraki's eyes widened. "No, wait, don't." "Fine." Izuku brushed his hair aside. He opened his left eye. Boom! The world changed. The purple-black aura that had been leaking from Izuku's body exploded outward like a bomb detonating. It wasn't just energy, it was pressure, presence, will made manifest. The ground beneath Izuku's feet didn't crack, it shattered. A crater formed, spreading outward in concentric circles for hundreds of feet. The temperature didn't just drop, it plunged to freezing instantly. Frost covered everything. The water in the fountain froze solid. Breath misted in the air. And above Izuku, reality itself seemed to warp. A spectral avatar manifested, enormous, demonic. It had 3 heads, 6 arms, and towered 30 feet high. Each arm held a ghostly sword. This was Asura, the demon god form of Izuku's quirk. Both of Izuku's eyes were now open. His left eye glowed with purple-black energy, radiating power that made the air shimmer. His right eye, normally brown, had taken on a faint red tint. 9 sword style, Izuku said quietly. The spectral Asura behind him moved, all 6 arms raising their blades. Izuku held Enma in both hands now, the black coating intensifying until the sword looked like it was made of solidified darkness. The Nomu, driven by its programming, charged again. It had been designed to fight All Might. It had multiple quirks, shock absorption, regeneration, super strength. None of it mattered. Asura, the spectral demon, struck. All 6 phantom arms swung simultaneously, creating a web of cutting force from impossible angles. Blades of the dead. Slash, 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 slash. The Nomu was hit by 9 blade strikes at once, 3 physical cuts from Izuku's actual movement, 6 spectral cuts from the Asura avatar. Each strike was delivered with enough force to split mountains. The creature didn't just die, it disintegrated. Its body came apart at a molecular level, scattering into particles that dispersed on the wind. There was no blood, no corpse. The Nomu simply ceased to exist as if it had never been. The shockwave from the attack blew the entire roof off the USJ dome. The metal and glass structure peeled away like paper, exposing the facility to the sky above. The sound echoed across Tokyo. People miles away heard it and looked up to see clouds parting in a perfect circle around the USJ, revealing blue sky in a formation that shouldn't be naturally possible. Shigaraki stood frozen, his face pale behind the hand mask. That's not possible. The Nomu was. It had. Izuku closed his left eye. Click. The spectral Asura vanished. The purple-black aura receded like a tide going out. The temperature began returning to normal, though frost still covered everything. Izuku stood in the center of a crater 50 feet across. The concrete had been pulverized into gravel. The Nomu's disintegrated remains were scattered as fine dust that was already blowing away. He sheathed Enma with a soft click. Boring, he said. Didn't even need to try. Shigaraki screamed, Kurogiri, get us out now! The mist villain who'd been watching in horror immediately created portals. Shigaraki and Kurogiri vanished, along with the handful of villains who hadn't already fled. In seconds, the plaza was empty except for Izuku, Aizawa, and the students who'd been watching from the entrance. Silence. Then, boom! The entrance doors burst open. All Might rushed in, having finally arrived after receiving the distress call. He took one look at the destroyed plaza, the missing roof, the scorch marks and frost, and his eyes went wide. What happened here? Izuku looked up at the number one hero. Villains attacked. I dealt with it. Can I go back to sleep now? All Might's gaze moved from Izuku to the crater, to the place where the Nomu had been disintegrated, to the destroyed roof. Young Midoriya, did you? There was a regenerating monster. It's gone now. Izuku started walking toward the entrance where his classmates were gathered. I'm tired. Fighting boring enemies makes me sleepy. He passed All Might without another word. The number one hero stood there, processing what must have happened. Aizawa limped over, injured but alive. He opened his left eye, didn't he? It would appear so. All Might's voice was grave. I've never seen destruction like this. The crater alone. The creature he fought, the Nomu, was designed to fight you. Multiple quirks, regeneration, shock absorption. Aizawa looked at where the monster had been. Midoriya disintegrated it, not killed, not defeated, erased from existence. All Might stared at Izuku's retreating back. The boy was already untying his bandana, ready to nap again. Nezu needs to know about this immediately. Agreed. At the entrance, Izuku found his scattered classmates regrouping. Uraraka, Bakugo, Kirishima, and others had been teleported to various zones but had managed to fight their way back. Midoriya, Uraraka called out. Are you okay? We saw the roof blow off and... Fine, just sleepy. He walked past them toward the buses. Bakugo grabbed his shoulder. Oi, what the hell happened down there? That pressure, that feeling... Izuku's left eye twitched beneath his hair. Just a tiny movement. Bakugo immediately let go and stepped back, his face pale. Every instinct told him touching Izuku right now was a terrible idea. Sorry, the blonde muttered, shocking everyone who knew him. Katsuki Bakugo didn't apologize. Izuku continued to the bus and claimed a seat at the back. Within a minute, he was asleep. The other students boarded quietly, shooting glances at the destroyed USJ facility, at the missing roof, at the parted clouds visible through the opening. He did that, Kirishima whispered to Kaminari. One guy did all that. That's not a guy, Kaminari replied, his voice hollow. That's a monster. Todoroki sat alone, staring at his hands. His ice had been useless in the battle trial against Izuku. Now he'd seen what the swordsman could do when serious. I need my fire, he whispered to himself. Ice alone will never be enough. The buses returned to UAA. Emergency meetings were called. Pro-heroes flooded the school. The media reported a gas explosion at the USJ, but rumors spread among hero circles about what really happened. In his office, Nezu watched security footage from the USJ's surviving cameras. The video quality was poor. The energy from Izuku's power had damaged most electronics, but enough remained to show the Nomu's disintegration. Remarkable, the principal said softly, and terrifying. Aizawa sat across from him, bandaged but recovering. He saved my life, saved all the students, but the power he displayed is why I wanted him at UA in the first place. Nezu steepled his paws. That boy has the potential to be either the greatest hero or the worst villain in history. Our job is to ensure it's the former. What if we can't? Then we pray he never opens that left eye again. Far away in a dark bar, Shigaraki sat trembling, his hands clutched his neck, scratching compulsively. He killed it. The Nomu. The perfect weapon. He just erased it. All for One's voice emerged from the speakers. As I warned you, Tamura, the one-eyed demon is beyond your current capabilities. Then how do we kill him? We don't. Not yet. First, we make him an enemy of Hero Society. We turn his power against those who trust him. We wait until his left eye opens and ensure it happens in a place where it will cause maximum destruction. Shigaraki's trembling slowed, a grin spread across his face. Make him destroy what he's trying to protect. Precisely. But this will take time. Patience, Tamura. The demon will fall, but only after we've sharpened the blade that kills him. The sports festival was announced the next week. Despite the USJ attack, or perhaps because of it, UA decided to proceed with the annual event. It would show the world that they wouldn't be cowed by villains. The entire nation would be watching. Izuku barely paid attention to the announcement. He was sleeping through most of Present Mike's explanation of the rules and format. And the winner gets to stand atop the podium as UA's strongest first year. Present Mick concluded enthusiastically. That got Izuku's attention. His right eye opened. Strongest. For the first time since arriving at UA, Izuku looked genuinely interested. After class, he stood and stretched. His classmates watched nervously as he walked to the front of the room. He turned to face them all. "Listen up," he said, his voice carrying easily. "I'm going to win this festival. That's not a threat or a boast. It's reality." Bakugo bristled. "Like hell, you. If any of you want to reach the peak, follow me. Become part of my crew. Get stronger by fighting at my side." Izuku's visible right eye swept across the class. "Or stay weak. Your choice." He left the classroom, leaving stunned silence behind. Kirishima was the first to speak. "Did he just invite us to follow him?" "More like declared himself king," Todoroki said quietly, "and offered us positions as subordinates." "That arrogant," Bakugo started. "But he's right," Momo interrupted. Everyone looked at her. "He is the strongest by a significant margin. If we want to improve, learning from him makes logical sense." "You can't be serious," Ida protested. "He's barely a team player. He sleeps through class. He saved all our lives at the USJ," Uraraka said softly. "When that monster was attacking, when the villains had us scattered, he ended it in seconds." The class fell silent again. Todoroki stood. "I'm going to beat him at the festival, using my full power if necessary." "You'd use your fire?" Momo asked, surprised. "I don't have a choice. Ice alone isn't enough. I've known that since our fight in the battle trial, but I didn't want to admit it." His hands clenched. "My father's power disgusts me. But if it's what I need to reach Midoriya's level..." He left without finishing the sentence. The week before the festival was intense. Students trained constantly, pushing their quirks to new limits. Everyone knew the event would be broadcast nationally. Pro heroes would be watching. This was their chance to make names for themselves, everyone except Izuku, who spent most of the week sleeping on the roof. "How can you be so calm?" Uraraka asked, finding him there during lunch. "The whole country will be watching." "So?" Izuku didn't open his eye. "They can watch me win." "Aren't you worried about the competition?" Todoroki's been training like crazy, Bakugo too. Even people from other classes... Worried? Now, Izuku did open his eye, looking at her. "Round face, let me explain something. When you're the strongest, you don't worry about the competition. They worry about you." "That's really arrogant. It's reality." "I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just aware of what I am." He sat up, looking out over the campus. "I made a promise to someone who died. Promised I'd become the strongest swordsman in the world. I won't let anyone stop me from keeping that promise." "The girl you mentioned? Quina?" "Yeah, she was better than me. Faster, more skilled. If she'd lived..." His voice trailed off. "But she didn't. So I carry both our dreams now." Uraraka sat beside him. "That's a heavy burden. It's the only one worth carrying." He closed his eye again. "Now let me sleep. You can stay if you want, but stop talking." She smiled despite herself and stayed quiet, watching clouds drift across the sky. The day of the sports festival arrived with brilliant sunshine. The stadium was packed with spectators, civilians, heroes, media personalities. The energy was electric. In the waiting room for Class 1A, students prepared in their own ways. Bakugo glared at nothing, explosions popping in his palms. Todoroki meditated, trying to make peace with using his left side. Ida did stretches. Momo reviewed strategies. Izuku leaned against the wall, already dozing. "Will all first-year students please proceed to the stadium?" Present Mike's voice boomed through the speakers. The class filed out into a tunnel that led to the main arena. The roar of the crowd grew louder with each step. Kirishima walked beside Izuku. "You nervous at all, man?" "No. Not even a little?" "Why would I be nervous? This is just a bunch of kids showing off their quirks. There are pro heroes watching. This could determine our whole careers." Then they'll watch me win and know who to recruit. Izuku's tone was completely matter-of-fact. They emerged into the stadium. Sunlight poured down. 50,000 people screamed their excitement. Cameras from every major network pointed at the field. Present Mike's voice boomed across the speakers. Welcome to UA Sports Festival, the event where tomorrow's heroes show what they've got. The first-year students assembled on the field, hundreds of them from all courses, hero, support, general studies, all competing for glory. Midnight, serving as the event's chief referee, cracked her whip to get attention. Quiet down. We'll now have the student pledge from the first-year representative. A name appeared on the screen, Izuku Midoriya. The crowd murmured, "That's the one-eyed demon. The one who destroyed the zero-pointer. I heard he killed 300 villains." Izuku walked up to the podium with his hands in his pockets. He looked out at the sea of faces, students, civilians, heroes. Then he spoke. "I'm going to win." His voice was amplified across the stadium. "That's not trash talk, it's a fact. If you want to reach the peak, follow me." He stepped down without another word. The stadium erupted, some in cheers, others in boos at his arrogance. His classmates reacted with various expressions of shock, amusement, or anger. Bakugo's eye twitched violently. "I'm going to murder him!" Todoroki's face remained calm, but ice crystals formed on his right side. "We'll see about that." Midnight cracked her whip again. "All right, let's begin with the first event, the obstacle race." She gestured to the tunnel ahead, a 4-kilometer course filled with obstacles designed to test your mobility, decision-making, and quirk application. The first 42 students to cross the finish line advanced to the next round. The students lined up at the starting gate. Tension was palpable. "On your marks." Izuku tied his green bandana around his forehead. His hand rested casually on Wado Ichimonji's hilt. "Get set." Purple-black energy began leaking from his body, just wisps, but enough to make nearby students nervous. "Go!" The starting gate opened. Hundreds of students surged forward, quirks activating immediately. Todoroki created an ice wave that froze the ground and many students' feet, securing an early lead. Others used various mobility quirks to navigate the frozen terrain. Izuku walked, not ran, walked. His pace was casual, almost leisurely. Students rushed past him, confused. Is he giving up? Why isn't he using his quirk? Then they hit the first obstacle, giant robots from the entrance exam. Todoroki froze several in place. Other students combined their quirks to destroy or bypass them. It was chaos. Izuku approached the robots still walking. He didn't draw his sword. He jumped. Boom! One leap carried him over the robots' heads, clearing 30 feet of vertical distance effortlessly. He landed on a robot's head, used it as a stepping stone, and jumped again. His path was a series of superhuman leaps that treated the obstacles like stepping stones. Each landing cratered whatever surface he hit. Each jump covered impossible distances. "Incredible," Present Mike shouted. "Izuku Midoriya is literally jumping over the entire obstacle course." The crowd watched in awe as Izuku bounded from robot to platform to rope bridge, never breaking his casual stride. When he landed, he walked. When obstacles appeared, he jumped over them with power that left craters. The second obstacle was the fall, a massive canyon crossed only by narrow tightropes. Most students had to carefully navigate across or use their quirks creatively. Todoroki created an ice path. Bakugo used explosions to fly. Izuku reached the edge, looked across the 100-meter gap, and jumped. One leap, straight across, boom. He cleared the entire canyon in a single bound, landing on the far side with an impact that cracked the ground. He continued walking without pause. "Did we just see that?" Present Mike sounded genuinely shocked. He jumped across the entire fall. That's over 100 meters. In the stands, pro heroes were leaning forward. This wasn't normal. This was beyond what first-year students should be capable of. The third obstacle was a minefield, the ground booby-trapped with explosion devices that would blast anyone who stepped on them. Students picked their way carefully across. Some used their quirks to detect mines. Others simply triggered them and tanked the explosions. Izuku drew Wado Ichimonji. "Boring obstacles," he muttered. He swung the sword horizontally. Shing! A compressed air blade flew forward, detonating every mine in its path simultaneously. Boom, 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 boom. Explosions rippled across the field in a perfect line. When the smoke cleared, there was a trench carved straight through the minefield. Every mine along that path detonated, creating a safe corridor. Izuku sheathed his sword and walked down the corridor he'd created. Incredible use of his quirk, Present Mike shouted. Midoriya just cleared an entire path through the mines. Other students rushed to use the path he'd created, but Izuku had already crossed and was approaching the finish line. He crossed first, a full minute ahead of second place. Todoroki came in second, panting from the exertion. Bakugo third, explosions still popping around his palms. By the time all 42 qualifying students had crossed, Izuku was sleeping against a wall. Midnight announced the next event. Cavalry battle! Teams of 2 to 4 people would be formed. One person would be the horse, carrying a rider on their shoulders. Each team had points based on their placement in the obstacle race. The goal was to steal other teams' headbands while protecting your own. The first place finisher from the obstacle race is worth 10 million points. Every eye in the stadium turned to Izuku. He opened his right eye, looking at the sea of predatory stares from his fellow students. So everyone's targeting me? He stood and stretched. Fine. Round face, you're on my team, Uraraka squeaked. Me? Yeah, your zero-gravity quirk is useful. Anyone else want in? A quiet voice spoke up. I'll join. Todoroki stepped forward. The crowd murmured. The strongest and second strongest students teaming up? Why? Izuku asked directly. Because I want to face you at full strength in the finals. This ensures we both advance. Todoroki's heterochromatic eyes met Izuku's. Unless you're afraid I'll steal your headband first? Izuku smirked. The first genuine smile anyone had seen from him. You're welcome to try. We need one more. I'll do it. Kirishima raised his hand. If I'm going to learn from the strongest, might as well start now. The team formed, Izuku as the rider, Todoroki and Kirishima as the front horses, Uraraka at the back using her quirk to reduce Izuku's weight and make the team more mobile. Midnight explained the rules and gave teams 15 minutes to strategize. Izuku's team stood in a circle. Strategy is simple, he said. Defend the 10 million points until the last second. When time's almost up, I'll attack. That's it? Kirishima asked. Shouldn't we? They'll all come for us immediately. Trying to steal other headbands is pointless. We let them exhaust themselves attacking us. Then, I end it. Todoroki nodded slowly. Defensively sound, but can you actually defend against every team simultaneously? Watch me. The cavalry battle began with organized chaos. Dozens of teams surged toward Izuku's group immediately, all desperate for those 10 million points. Bakugo's team came in hot, explosions blazing. Those points are mine. Deku. Izuku caught Bakugo's wrist mid-lunge without even looking. My name's not Deku, it's Izuku, or Demon. Take your pick. He shoved Bakugo's team back with casual force, sending them tumbling. A team with vines tried to grab the headband from behind. Todoroki created an ice wall that blocked them. Another team with tape-based quirks attempted to snare Izuku from range. Kirishima hardened and broke the tape. Uraraka kept them light and mobile, allowing quick repositioning whenever they got surrounded. But there were too many teams. Even with their coordination, they were getting pressed. 12 minutes in, 5 teams had them completely surrounded. Bakugo, Todoroki's old rival Inasa, a general studies team, and others all closed in simultaneously. Now! Bakugo screamed. All at once. Explosions, wind blasts, and various quirks hit from every direction. Izuku sighed. Told you, this is boring. He placed his hand on Wado Ichimonji's hilt. Purple-black energy exploded outward. Doom! Not an attack. Just presence. Pure, overwhelming presence that manifested as crushing pressure. Every team within 20 feet of Izuku suddenly felt like they were trying to walk through water. Their movements slowed. Their quirks weakened. Fear gripped their hearts. This was Conqueror's Haki, though Izuku would never name it. To everyone else, it was simply his demonic aura at a level they'd never experienced. Back off, Izuku said quietly. The team stumbled backward, instincts screaming at them to retreat. Several riders fell off their horses, disqualifying their teams. Todoroki, Kirishima, and Uraraka, directly beneath Izuku and accustomed to his presence, were less affected. But even they felt the weight of his power. What? What is that? Kirishima whispered. His quirk's true nature, Todoroki replied. He's not just physically strong. That pressure, it's like fighting against gravity itself. 2 minutes remained. Most teams had backed off, either out of fear or exhaustion. Only Bakugo's team and one other, led by a student named Monoma from Class 1B, were still attempting to approach. 1 minute left. Midnight announced. Izuku stood up on his team's shoulders, balancing perfectly. All right, I'm bored with defense. Let's attack. What? His team shouted simultaneously. 30 seconds. I'm going headband hunting. Don't move. He jumped, not using his team as support, just jumped straight up from their shoulders, 15 feet into the air. While airborne, his hands moved like lightning. He grabbed headbands from 3 different teams as he fell past them. Monoma's team, a team from Class 1C, and a support course team. He landed back on his team's shoulders with perfect balance, holding 3 new headbands. Time! Midnight's whip cracked. The stadium erupted in shocked cheers. Present Mike's voice was almost hysterical. Incredible! In the last 30 seconds, Midoriya jumped off his own team and stole 3 headbands while airborne. I've never seen anything like it. Bakugo's team stood frozen, their target headband gone, snatched by Izuku in that final jump. The results displayed. First place, Team Midoriya, 10,000 plus points. Second place, Team Todoroki a different combination led by someone else. Third place, Team Bakugo. Fourth place, Team Shinso. The qualifying teams were announced. Izuku's entire team advanced, along with several others. Bakugo stood trembling with rage and humiliation. Not only had he failed to take the 10 million points, but Izuku had stolen his headband in the final moments. The break before the final tournament gave students an hour to rest and eat. Izuku found a quiet corner and immediately dozed off. He was awakened by a presence. His right eye opened to see Todoroki standing over him. "We need to talk," the dual-haired boy said. "About the finals. You and I will likely face each other if we keep winning." Todoroki's left side sparked with small flames. "I need to know, should I use my fire against you?" Izuku sat up, actually interested in this conversation. "You mean your dad's power? Don't call it that." Todoroki's voice was bitter. "Endeavor forced a quirk marriage to create me. Used my mother as breeding stock to make the perfect hero who could surpass all might. This fire is his legacy, his ambition. I hate it. So you cripple yourself out of spite?" Izuku's tone was blunt. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're fighting with one hand tied behind your back because you hate your old man. Meanwhile, your enemies are using everything they have. How's that working out for you?" Todoroki's jaw clenched. "I don't need his power to what? To beat me?" Izuku stood, getting in Todoroki's face despite being shorter. "Let me tell you something, half and half. I don't care about your family drama. I don't care about your father's ambitions. When we fight, I want you at full strength." "Why?" "Because anything less is an insult." Izuku's visible eye blazed with intensity. "I came here to fight the strongest, to test myself against the peak. If you hold back against me, you're saying I'm not worth your full power. That pisses me off." Todoroki stared at him. "You want me to use my fire? I want you to use everything you've got. Fire, ice, whatever else you're hiding. Come at me with the intent to win. Otherwise, don't bother showing up." For the first time in years, Todoroki felt something crack in his chest, the wall he'd built around his left side, around his father's power. "All right," he said quietly. "I'll use it, but not for him, for myself. I don't care why you use it, just don't make it boring." They stood there for a moment, 2 of UA's strongest first years, acknowledging each other as true rivals. "One more thing," Todoroki said. "If I win, you won't. But if I do, you won't." Todoroki almost smiled. "We'll see." The tournament bracket was revealed. Round 1, Midoriya versus Shinso, Todoroki versus Sero, Bakugo versus Uraraka, Kirishima versus Tetsutu, Ashido versus Aoyama, Tokoyami versus Yaoyorozu, Ida versus Hatsume, Kaminari versus Shiozaki. The stadium filled again as the afternoon tournament began. The first match was called Izuku Midoriya versus Hitoshi Shinso. Izuku walked into the arena, hands in his pockets. Across from him stood a purple-haired boy with bags under his eyes. "I know your quirk," Shinso said as they faced off. "Strength enhancement type. Everyone saw it during the cavalry battle." "Wrong," Izuku replied, "but close enough." Midnight raised her whip. "Begin," Shinso immediately spoke. "Why do you want to be a hero?" It was a psychological attack. His quirk activated when people responded to him verbally. Answer the question, and he could control them. Izuku didn't answer. He just started walking forward. Shinso tried again. "Are you deaf? I asked you a question." Silence. Izuku kept approaching, his expression neutral. "Say something. Fight me properly." Still nothing. Izuku was now 10 feet away. Shinso panicked and threw a punch. He had no combat training, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Izuku caught the fist casually, then pushed Shinso backward. Not hard enough to hurt, just enough to move him outside the boundary line. Out of bounds, Midoriya wins. The crowd seemed almost disappointed by how quickly it ended, but Izuku just walked off the stage without a word. Shinso sat there, frustrated. You didn't even try. Your quirk's decent, Izuku called back without turning around, but you relied on it too much. Learn to fight without it first, then use it as a bonus. Otherwise, you're helpless against anyone who knows about it. It was the closest thing to advice Izuku had given anyone. The other matches proceeded. Todoroki versus Sero. Todoroki created a massive glacier that encased his opponent instantly. The crowd gasped at the overwhelming display of power. Bakugo versus Uraraka. A fierce fight where Uraraka used clever tactics, but Bakugo's explosive power ultimately won. However, he looked frustrated. He'd wanted to fight Izuku, not her. Kirishima versus Tetsutetsu. A clash of hardening quirks that came down to endurance. Kirishima won by a narrow margin. The other matches played out with varying levels of excitement. By the time the quarterfinals approached, the arena was electric with anticipation. Quarterfinal match 1, Izuku Midoriya versus Shoto Todoroki. This was the fight everyone wanted to see. They entered the arena from opposite sides. Todoroki's right side already frosting over, preparing his ice. Izuku walking with his hands in his pockets, looking almost bored. They met at the center. Midnight stood between them. This is a quarterfinal match. Fight until one of you is knocked out, surrenders, or is pushed out of bounds. Any questions? Neither responded. Then, begin. Todoroki attacked immediately. Crack, whoom! A glacier erupted from his right foot, spreading across the arena toward Izuku in a wave of ice and frost. It was the same attack that had overwhelmed Sero in seconds. Izuku didn't move. He just watched it come. The ice reached him, started to encase his legs. Then he took a step forward. The ice shattered, not melted. Shattered. Pure physical strength broke through Todoroki's attack like it was glass. That all? Izuku asked. Todoroki gritted his teeth and created another ice wave, this one larger. The temperature in the arena dropped. Frost covered the stands. Izuku walked through it. Each step shattered the ice. His boots crushed the frozen ground beneath them. Your ice is strong, but you're holding back. Izuku's voice carried across the arena. Where's your fire? I don't need it to beat you. Then you've already lost. Shing. Izuku drew Wado Ichimonji. The white blade gleamed in the sunlight. He swung horizontally. The arena split. Not figuratively. Literally. A line carved through the ice, through the concrete, through the ground itself. The shockwave from the slash dispersed all of Todoroki's ice instantly. The entire left half of the arena was simply gone. Cut away. The edge where Izuku's slash had traveled was perfectly smooth, like someone had taken a cosmic blade and removed half the battlefield. The crowd went silent in shock. Todoroki stared at the bisected arena, at how close the cut had come to him. It had missed by inches. A deliberate warning. That could have been you, Izuku said, sheathing Wado Ichimonji. I held back, aimed to miss. But if you keep using half your power against me, I won't miss next time. Something in Todoroki snapped. Years of resentment, years of hating his left side, like years of fighting with one arm tied behind his back. It all came crashing down. Flames erupted from his left side. Whoosh! The fire wasn't small. It was massive, towering pillars of heat that washed over the arena. The temperature spiked from freezing to inferno in seconds. Todoroki's eyes blazed, both of them. For the first time in his life, he was using both halves of his quirk simultaneously. There it is, Present Mike shouted. Todoroki's finally using his fire. Ice and flame merged. Todoroki created a wall of both elements, a glacier on one side, an inferno on the other, and sent it crashing toward Izuku. The attack was overwhelming. Any normal student would have been destroyed. Izuku grinned, actually grinned, showing genuine excitement for the first time in the festival. Now we're talking. He drew all three swords, Wado Ichimonji in his mouth, Enma in his right hand, Sandai Katetsu in his left, Santoryu stance. The green bandana around his forehead fluttered in the wind created by Todoroki's attack. Santoryu Ogi. He crossed his blades in front of his chest. 3,000 worlds. Shing, 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 shing. Izuku spun. His entire body became a tornado of cutting force as all three blades rotated in a devastating spiral pattern. The attack created a vortex of compressed air and blade energy that met Todoroki's ice and fire wall head-on. Crash, boom, whoom. The collision shook the entire stadium. Ice shattered into mist. Flames dispersed into smoke. The ground between them exploded upward from the shockwave. When the dust cleared, Todoroki was on his knees, breathing hard. He'd poured everything into that attack. All his ice, all his fire, all his will. It hadn't been enough. Izuku stood exactly where he'd been, sword still in stance. Not a scratch on him. Not even breathing hard. Good, Izuku said. That's the fight I wanted. You gave me everything. Thank you. He sheathed two of his swords, keeping only Wado Ichimonji drawn. But now it's my turn. He walked forward. Todoroki tried to create ice to slow him, but his quirk was exhausted. The flames flickered weakly. Izuku raised Wado Ichimonji overhead. This won't kill you, but it'll definitely knock you out. He swung down. The blade never touched Todoroki. But the wind pressure from the swing, a compressed air blade so powerful it distorted space, hit the boy like a sledgehammer. Boom! Todoroki flew backward, unconscious before he hit the arena wall. Todoroki is out of bounds. Midoriya wins. The stadium erupted in cheers. Even those who'd been skeptical of Izuku's arrogance had to acknowledge it. He was simply on another level. Izuku walked over to where Todoroki lay, crumpled against the wall. He looked down at the unconscious boy. You fought well, better than anyone else here, but you're not ready to beat me yet. He sheathed Wado Ichimonji. Get stronger, then we'll fight again. Medical robots carried Todoroki away. Recovery Girl would heal him, though the emotional wounds from finally using his fire might take longer. The other quarterfinal matches seemed almost anticlimactic after that. Bakugo versus Kirishima. Bakugo won through overwhelming explosions, but he looked frustrated. He'd wanted to fight Izuku. Tokoyami versus Ida. Tokoyami's Dark Shadow proved too versatile for Ida's speed alone. Kaminari versus Yaoyorozu. Momo's strategic mind overwhelmed Kaminari's raw power. The semifinals bracket was set. Midoriya versus Bakugo, Toyo's Yaoyorozu. Bakugo stood in the waiting area, his entire body trembling. Not from fear, from rage and anticipation. This was what he'd wanted since the entrance exam. A direct fight with Izuku Midoriya. Semi-final match 1, Izuku Midoriya versus Katsuki Bakugo. They entered the arena. The crowd's energy was palpable. Izuku looked at Bakugo, really looked at him for the first time. Saw the determination burning in those red eyes, the pride, the desperate need to prove himself. You want this fight bad, don't you, loud brat? Don't call me that! Bakugo's palms sparked. My name is Katsuki Bakugo. Remember it because I'm going to shove it down your throat. All right, Bakugo. Izuku actually said his name properly this time. Show me what you've got. Midnight raised her whip. Begin. Bakugo didn't hesitate. He launched himself forward with explosions, closing the distance in a heartbeat. His fighting style was aggressive, relentless, a constant barrage of explosions from every angle. Boom, boom, boom. Izuku dodged, his observation abilities letting him predict each attack. Bakugo was fast, skilled. His control over his explosions was impressive. But it wasn't enough. Toragari slash! Izuku's counterattack was a single sword swing, Sandai Kitetsu creating an X-shaped energy wave that forced Bakugo to dodge or be cut. The blonde twisted in midair using explosions to redirect himself. He came in from a different angle, his ultimate move charging. Howitzer impact! He spun like a tornado, building up explosive power, then released it all in a massive detonation that engulfed the entire center of the arena. Boom, boom, boom. The explosion was enormous. The shockwave rattled the stands. Smoke and debris filled the air. Present Mike's voice was awed. Incredible. Bakugo just used his ultimate move. There's no way anyone could survive. Shing. The smoke parted. Izuku walked out of it completely unharmed. His right hand gripped Sandai Kitetsu. The cursed blade was coated in black energy. That was your ultimate move? He sounded disappointed. It was loud, but not strong enough. Bakugo stared in disbelief. His ultimate technique, the move he'd been perfecting for months, had done nothing. How is that possible? Your explosions are fire-based, heat and concussive force. Izuku raised his sword. I've faced hotter, stronger. Your attack was impressive for a student, but I'm not a student. He assumed a stance. I'm a demon. He swung. Dragon damnation. Crack! One swing. The attack traveled faster than sound. It wasn't just cutting force, it was will made manifest. The air itself split. Bakugo saw it coming. Tried to dodge, used explosions to propel himself away, not fast enough. The attack hit him dead center, but Izuku had controlled it perfectly. Instead of cutting Bakugo apart, the wind pressure alone struck him like a physical blow. Boom! Bakugo flew backward unconscious, his body slamming into the arena wall hard enough to crack the concrete. He slumped, completely knocked out. Bakugo is unconscious! Midoriya wins. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered Izuku's overwhelming power. Others seemed concerned by how easily he dismantled Bakugo's ultimate move. Izuku walked over to where Bakugo lay. The blonde was out cold but breathing steadily. You've got potential, loud brat. Your explosions are strong, but you relied too much on raw power. Learn technique, learn control. He turned away. Then maybe you'll last more than one attack. Medical robots carried Bakugo away. When he woke up hours later in the infirmary, the first thing he did was punch the wall hard enough to crack it. He'd lost. Again, to the same person, despite everything. But this time, instead of just rage, there was something else. Determination. He would get stronger. He would master his quirk beyond what anyone thought possible. Because one day, he would beat Izuku Midoriya. The other semifinal, Tokoyami versus Yaoyorozu, was strategic and impressive, but everyone knew it was just a prelude to the real main event. Yaoyorozu won through clever use of flash grenades to counter Dark Shadow's weakness to light, which meant the finals were set. Izuku Midoriya versus Momo Yaoyorozu. In the waiting room, Momo sat trying to formulate a strategy. She was brilliant, analytical, and creative. But she'd seen what Izuku did to Todoroki and Bakugo. How could she possibly win? She stepped into the arena to thunderous applause. Across from her, Izuku walked out with his hands in his pockets, looking like he'd rather be sleeping. They faced each other at the center. I have to say, Momo began, I've been analyzing your fights. You're incredibly powerful, but I believe I've found a weakness. Oh? Izuku actually looked interested. What's that? You're holding back, against everyone. Even against Todoroki, you didn't use your full power. You're bored. And that means you're not taking us seriously, which means you're vulnerable. Izuku's expression shifted slightly, a hint of respect. Smart girl, you're right, I am holding back. Then I ask you. Momo created a bow staff from her arm. Please fight me seriously. Use your full power, otherwise this victory means nothing. For a long moment, Izuku just stared at her. Then, for the second time that day, he grinned. You want my full power? Most people pray they never see it. I'm not most people. Fair enough. Izuku reached up to his bandana. I'll make you a deal. I'll use more power than I did against anyone today, but I'm not opening my left eye. That's not for school tournaments. Agreed. Midnight raised her whip. Then let's begin the finals. Midoriya versus Yaoyorozu. Start! Momo immediately created flash grenades and smoke bombs, filling the arena with obscuring cover. From Izuku's perspective, visibility dropped to almost zero, but he didn't need to see. Clever, he said, his voice carrying through the smoke. But you can't hide from someone who can sense your presence. He moved. Observation. Haki let him track Momo's position perfectly despite the smoke. He appeared beside her in an instant. She spun, swinging her bow staff at his head. He caught it one-handed. Good instincts, but you need to be faster. He pulled the staff, and Momo with it, then pushed her back gently. Not enough to hurt, but enough to demonstrate the gap between them. Momo created a shield and tried to block his next movement, but Izuku simply walked through the shield, shattering it with raw strength. Your quirk is amazing. You can create almost anything, but there's a limit to what strategy can do against overwhelming power. I refuse to accept that. Momo created a net cannon and fired it point blank. Izuku caught the net with his bare hands and tore it apart like tissue paper. You're strong, Yaoyorozu, smarter than most. But this fight, he drew Wado Ichimonji, was over before it started. He swung his sword overhead. The wind pressure alone, without even a technique, created a shockwave that dispersed all the smoke instantly and knocked Momo flat on her back. She lay there, staring up at the sky, knowing she couldn't continue. She'd given everything, used every trick she could think of. It hadn't been close to enough. Winner by knockout, Izuku Midoriya. The stadium exploded in cheers and applause. The #1 hero students had just been crowned. Izuku sheathed his sword and walked over to Momo. He offered his hand. She took it, letting him pull her to her feet. You fought well, he said simply. Better strategy than most heroes I've seen, but you need to get stronger. Rely less on tactics and more on your own power. How can I get stronger when the gap is so large? Train until it isn't. That's all anyone can do. The award ceremony was held at sunset. The podium had 3 levels, first, second, and third place. Izuku stood at the top. Momo and Todoroki stood on either side at the second place level. Both had made it to the semifinals, so they shared second. Bakugo and the other semifinalists stood at third. All Might, in his hero form, presented the medals. Young Midoriya. The #1 hero's voice boomed. You have shown incredible strength and skill. You are a true champion. He placed the gold medal around Izuku's neck. Izuku looked at it, then at the crowd, then back at All Might. This was boring, he said bluntly. The crowd gasped. All Might's smile twitched. Be boring? Yeah, no one here could push me, made me use real techniques, challenge me. Izuku's visible right eye scanned the stadium. I came here to fight the strongest, but apparently I already am the strongest in this school. He raised his sword above his head, a gesture of dominance, not celebration. I am the king of hell. His voice carried across the entire stadium. Follow me if you want to reach the peak, or stay weak and watch as I climb higher. The crowd was split. Some cheered his confidence, others booed his arrogance. The media ate it up, cameras flashing everywhere. All Might looked concerned. This wasn't the behavior of a humble hero, but it was exactly what Nezu had warned him about. Izuku Midoriya operated on his own code. As the ceremony concluded and students began to file out, Izuku stood alone at the top of the podium, looking out over the stadium. His green bandana fluttered in the wind, his 3 swords clinked softly at his waist. In the shadows beneath the stands, a figure watched on a phone screen. Tamura Shigaraki's eyes were wide with obsession. The king of hell, he whispered. Perfect. The higher he climbs, the harder he'll fall. Soon, All for One's voice came through his earpiece. But first, we need to know his limits. The sports festival showed his controlled power. We need to see what happens when he loses control. How do we make him lose control? By taking away what he values most. His crew, as he calls them. Start planning, Tamura. The demon's fall begins now. The call ended. Shigaraki pocketed his phone and shuffled away into the darkness, already plotting his next move. Above, unaware of the danger brewing, Izuku removed his medal and pocketed it. He left the stadium through a side exit, avoiding the crowds and media. He had places to be, training to do, a promise to keep. The sports festival had been just another step on his path. The next week, Izuku's internship assignment came through. Most students received offers from small agencies or local heroes. Todoroki received hundreds of offers. Bakugo got several from top agencies. Izuku received 1 offer, just 1. From Manuel, a minor water-based hero operating out of Hosu City, he stared at the letter, confused. Who the hell is Manuel? He's a decent hero, Aizawa explained during the class briefing. Operates in Hosu, good track record with sidekicks. But honestly, Midoriya, I'm surprised you only got 1 offer. My performance at the festival was that bad? Your performance was overwhelming. That's the problem. Most heroes are afraid to work with you. They think you're dangerous, uncontrollable. They're right. That's not helping your case. Aizawa sighed. Look, take the Manual offer. Learn what you can. Try not to destroy Hosu while you're there. Izuku shrugged. Whatever, I'll go. Several other students were also heading to Hosu for internships. Ida had specifically requested an agency there, though his reasons were personal and dark. The hero killer Stain had attacked his brother, Hie, leaving the pro-hero paralyzed. Ida wanted revenge. The train to Hosu was crowded with students. Izuku sat alone in the back, sleeping. Ida sat several rows up, his mind consumed with dark thoughts. Neither knew that their paths would soon cross in the worst possible way. Hosu City was a sprawling metropolis, not as large as Tokyo, but still significant. Manuel's agency was small, but well-maintained. The water hero greeted Izuku with nervous enthusiasm. Welcome, Midoriya. I saw your performance at the sports festival and thought, this kid has raw power but needs guidance on rescue work, so I'm glad you accepted my offer. Izuku grunted acknowledgement. Right, well, let's get you suited up and we'll start with some... Are you listening? Izuku had already wandered off, looking around the agency. Which way is north? That way? But why? Just checking. I get lost easily. Manuel blinked. You get lost in buildings? Everywhere. Cities, buildings, hallways, doesn't matter. That's concerning for a hero. Yeah, well, I'm not really a hero. I'm just here because UA said I had to do internships. This was going to be a long week, Manuel thought. The first 2 days were uneventful. Izuku followed Manuel on patrols, helped with minor rescues, pulling cats from trees, helping civilians, and generally looked bored out of his mind. On the third night, everything changed. Izuku was wandering Hosu's streets alone. He'd gotten separated from Manuel after taking a wrong turn. He was trying to find his way back to the agency when he heard screaming from an alley. He turned the corner to investigate. The alley was dark, lit only by flickering streetlights. At the far end, a scene of violence played out. 3 people lay on the ground, bleeding. A hero, native, was pinned against the wall, and standing over him was a man in a tattered costume, his face wrapped in bandages, his eyes blazing with fanatical conviction. The hero killer, Stain. Another fake hero, Stain hissed, his blade pressed against Native's throat. Another glory seeker who... He stopped mid-sentence as he noticed Izuku standing at the alley entrance. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Stain's eyes widened in recognition. You, the one-eyed demon. I saw you at the sports festival. And you're the hero killer everyone's been talking about. Izuku's hand moved to Wado Ichimonji's hilt. Stain, right? You know my name. Stain released Native and turned to face Izuku fully. Tell me, demon, are you a true hero or another fake seeking glory? I'm not a hero at all. I'm just a demon who happens to go to hero school. Stain's expression shifted, interest replacing hostility. Interesting. You don't claim to be a hero? Most would lie. Lying is boring. They circled each other slowly. The alley was narrow, limiting movement. Perfect for close combat. Your conviction is strong, Stain observed. I can feel it. You're not like the others. You have purpose. Yeah, I promised someone I'd become the strongest. Everything else is just noise. Not to save people? Not to help society? Those are side effects. My goal is strength. If people get saved along the way, good for them. Stain actually smiled. Honest, brutal, powerful. You might be the most genuine person in that school. Thanks. Now move. That hero behind you needs medical attention. I can't do that. He's a fake. He deserves... I don't care what he deserves. I'm telling you to move. Stain's smile faded. And if I refuse, then I'll move you myself. Shing! Stain attacked without warning, his blade flashing toward Izuku's throat with practiced precision. The hero killer was fast, inhumanly fast, honed by years of combat. Izuku's hand moved. Clang! Wado Ichimonji intercepted Stain's blade mid-strike. The sound of metal on metal rang through the alley. They held the clash for a moment, eyes locked. You're fast, Izuku acknowledged. Faster than most. And you blocked without even looking tense. Your observation skills are... Izuku pushed forward, breaking the clash. His counter-slash forced Stain to backflip away. The fight began in earnest. Stain's fighting style was efficient and brutal. No wasted movement, every strike aimed to kill or cripple. He wielded multiple blades, switching between them fluidly, but Izuku was faster, stronger, more skilled. Clang, clang! Their blades met repeatedly, sparks flying in the darkness. Stain tried to use his quirk, Blood Curdle, which paralyzed anyone whose blood he ingested. He managed to cut Izuku's arm, drew blood, licked it immediately. Nothing happened. What? Stain's eyes widened. My quirk should have... Paralysis doesn't work on demons. Izuku's voice was calm despite fighting at high speed. Your quirk affects blood types A, B, and O. Mine's not human enough to fall into those categories. He attacked. Toragari! Slash! An X-shaped energy wave carved through the air. Stain dodged, but the attack carved through the brick walls behind him like they were cardboard. Incredible, Stain breathed. Your power is... He was cut off as Izuku appeared directly in front of him, having crossed the distance in an instant. Your blade is light, Izuku said quietly, because you hesitate. You choose who deserves to live. A true swordsman cuts down everyone in his path without discrimination. That's the path of a murderer. Yeah, I know. Izuku's right eye blazed with intensity. I've walked that path before, killed 300 people in one night. Every single one of them died by blade. Stain actually stepped back. The massacre incident. That was you? They killed my crew, my family, so I killed them all. Izuku raised Wado Ichimonji. Your conviction is strong, hero killer. Yeah, but mine is stronger, because I've already lost everything once. I won't let it happen again. He assumed Santoryu's stance, drawing all 3 swords. Wait, Stain said, raising his hands. If we fight seriously here, innocence will... Santoryu Ogi, 3,000 worlds! Shing, 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 shing! Izuku spun. The entire alleyway became a whirlwind of cutting force. Buildings on both sides were sliced into ribbons. The concrete beneath their feet carved into geometric patterns. Stain's blades shattered. His armor disintegrated. He fell. Multiple cuts across his body, none fatal, but all debilitating. The attack had lasted 3 seconds. When Izuku stopped spinning, the alley was destroyed. Buildings on both sides were collapsing in controlled falls, their structural supports severed. Stain lay on the ground, bleeding but alive. His eyes stared up at Izuku with a mixture of awe and fear. You held back. Yeah, if I'd used full power, you'd be dead. Izuku sheathed his 3 swords with simultaneous click sounds. You're strong, your blade has conviction, but it's not strong enough to cut me down. He grabbed the unconscious native and lifted him with one arm, grabbed Stain's collar with the other. Now which way is north? I need to find heroes to hand you both over to. Stain, barely conscious, actually laughed. You're lost? After all that, you're lost? Shut up. You're my prisoner. You don't get to judge me. He started walking, dragging both of them. He picked a direction at random and hoped it led to the main street. Behind him, the buildings he'd sliced finally collapsed completely, creating a massive cloud of dust and debris. Sirens wailed in the distance. Heroes were coming. But Izuku Midoriya, the one-eyed demon, was already walking away from the scene, lost as always, past carrying the defeated hero killer like a bag of groceries. News of Stain's defeat spread instantly. The media went insane. The hero killer, the man who'd paralyzed dozens of heroes who'd evaded capture for years, had been defeated by a first-year UA student. Izuku's reputation exploded. He went from that scary kid from the sports festival to the demon who defeated Stain overnight. He hated it. "Can't you people leave me alone?" he muttered, pushing through crowds of reporters trying to get interviews. Manuel tried to do damage control. Midoriya acted heroically but recklessly. He should have called for backup instead of... "I beat him in 3 attacks," Izuku said bluntly during one interview. "What backup did I need?" The interviewer looked uncomfortable. "Well, yes, but the protocol is for people who might lose. I didn't." He walked off camera, leaving the interviewer stammering. Back at UA, Nezu watched the news coverage with Aizawa and All Might. "His power continues to grow," the principal observed. "Or perhaps we're simply seeing more of what was always there." The way he describes the fight, Aizawa read the report. He destroyed an entire alleyway with one technique. Stain's blades shattered just from the wind pressure. "And he held back," All Might added grimly. According to Stain's own statement to police, Midoriya could have killed him at any point, but chose not to. Nezu nodded slowly. Which brings us to our central question. Is Izuku Midoriya learning to be a hero, or are we simply containing a demon until he decides what he wants to be? No one had an answer. The week of internships ended. Izuku returned to UA to find his classmates treating him with even more wariness than before. Only a few approached him normally. Uraraka sat next to him at lunch. "You actually fought Stain? Was he really as scary as the news said?" "He was skilled, fast, had conviction." Izuku ate his rice methodically, but not strong enough. "You make it sound so simple." "It was simple. He attacked. I defended. I won." Todoroki appeared on Izuku's other side. His internship with Endeavor had been complicated, but he'd learned to use his flames without hesitation now. "I want a rematch," Todoroki said without preamble. "You'll lose again." "Probably, but I need to see how much I've improved." Izuku actually looked at him. Really looked. Saw the determination in those heterochromatic eyes, saw that Todoroki had changed. "Fine, after school, training ground beta. Bring everything you've got." Todoroki nodded and left. Kirishima approached with Kaminari. "Dude, that was so manly, taking down Stain. You're like the strongest first year in the whole school." "I'm the strongest person in the whole school," Izuku corrected. "First year or otherwise." "What about the teachers?" "Aizawa couldn't erase my quirk. All Might's strong, but..." Izuku trailed off thoughtfully. "Actually, I'd like to fight All Might. See if the #1 hero can handle my full power." Kaminari paled. "You want to fight All Might? Are you insane?" "Just curious. He's supposed to be the strongest. I want to test if that's true." The casual way Izuku discussed fighting the symbol of peace made everyone at the table uncomfortable. That afternoon, true to his word, Izuku met Todoroki at training ground Beta. Word had spread, and half of Class 1A showed up to watch. They faced each other in the center of the destroyed training ground, still damaged from their previous encounter during the battle trials. Same rules as the sports festival? Todoroki asked. No rules. Fight until one of us can't continue. That's dangerous. You asked for a rematch. This is what that means. Todoroki's right side frosted over, his left side ignited, both elements active simultaneously. Crack whoosh! He attacked with everything. Massive ice walls combined with pillars of fire. The temperature fluctuated wildly from freezing to inferno. Izuku drew Enma. The black blade gleamed. Better. Much better than the sports festival. He coated the sword in armament haki. The blade turned completely black, darker than midnight. But still not enough. Slash! One swing. A wave of black cutting force that split Todoroki's ice and fire like they weren't there. The attack carved a trench through the ground 50 feet long. Todoroki dodged, but barely. You're using both sides now. Good. But you haven't mastered combining them. Your ice and fire fight each other instead of working together. Izuku moved forward, not attacking, just walking. When you can merge ice and fire into something new, then you'll be worth fighting seriously. Todoroki gritted his teeth and launched his ultimate move, a simultaneous blast of maximum ice and maximum fire from both hands. The attack engulfed Izuku completely. The crowd watching from the sidelines felt the heat and cold from hundreds of feet away. When the attack cleared, Izuku stood unmoved. His blade had simply cut through everything before it reached him. Good effort, but the gap is still too large. He sheathed Enma. Train more, then we'll fight again. Todoroki fell to his knees, exhausted. He'd used everything he had. It hadn't been enough. But instead of frustration, he felt determination. The gap was large, but he could see the path forward now. Thank you, he said quietly, for showing me how far I still need to go. Izuku grunted acknowledgement and walked away, already thinking about dinner. Behind him, the students of Class 1A whispered among themselves. He didn't even use his full power, Momo observed. His left eye stayed closed the entire time, Kirishima added. What happens if he opens it? Someone asked. No one answered, because everyone remembered the USJ, the destroyed roof, the disintegrated Nomu. Bakugo stood apart from the group, his fists clenched. He'd watched the entire fight, watched Todoroki, who'd gotten much stronger, still lose completely. I'll beat him, Bakugo muttered. I don't care how long it takes, I'll get strong enough to beat the demon. Days turned into weeks. Class 1A continued their studies, their training, their growth as heroes in training. But hanging over everything was the knowledge that they shared a class with someone who operated on a completely different level. Izuku Midoriya, the one-eyed demon, the king of hell. Aizawa's concerns grew. During a private meeting with Nezu, he voiced them. He's too powerful and too apathetic about rules. What happens when a situation arises where following hero protocol conflicts with his personal code? Then, we'll deal with it, Nezu replied calmly. But consider the alternative, Aizawa. If we expelled him, where would he go? What would he do? Probably become a villain. Exactly. Better to have him here, where we can guide him, than loose on the world following only his own moral compass. That's a dangerous gamble. Everything about Izuku Midoriya is dangerous. That's precisely why he needs to be here. Unknown to the faculty, in a dark bar across Tokyo, the League of Villains was growing. Shigaraki had recruited new members, planned new attacks, and at the center of his planning board was a photo of Izuku Midoriya taken during the sports festival. The demon, Shigaraki muttered, staring at the image. He thinks he's strong. We'll show him what real monsters look like. Kurogiri appeared beside him. All for One has approved the next phase of our plan? Yes, summer training camp. When UA takes their first years into the mountains for training, that's when we strike. And Midoriya? We take his crew, everyone he's started to care about. Make him choose between saving them and maintaining control. Shigaraki's grin widened behind the hand mask. Then we see what happens when the demon opens both eyes. The plan was set. The trap was laid. All that remained was waiting for summer. Back at UA, unaware of the danger brewing, Izuku sat on the roof during lunch. He looked at the sky, at clouds drifting peacefully overhead. His left eye remained closed. always closed, containing power that could reshape landscapes. Quina, he whispered to the wind, I'm getting stronger, just like we promised. His hand rested on Wado Ichimonji, her sword, his most precious possession. But the real monsters are still out there, the ones who hurt people like us, the ones who destroy dreams. He stood, looking out over the city, and when I find them, his left eye twitched beneath its seal. When I opened this eye again, purple-black energy leaked from his body for just a moment. The world will remember why they call me the King of Hell. The wind carried his words away. The peaceful afternoon continued, but dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. The League of Villains prepared their attack. The summer training camp approached, and Izuku Midoriya, the one-eyed demon, stood ready to face whatever came next. His left eye remained closed. For now. The announcement came during homeroom on a Monday morning. Aizawa stood at the front of Class 1A, looking even more exhausted than usual. Final exams begin next week. Written tests will cover everything from the first semester. The practical exam will be different this year. The class perked up. Different how? Normally, you'd fight training robots, but after recent events, the USJ attack, the sports festival, the Stain incident, the faculty has decided you need to face something more challenging. Aizawa's tired eyes swept across the room. You'll be fighting teachers, in pairs. Excited chatter erupted. Fighting pro heroes, this was huge. Partnerships have been assigned based on compatibility and areas needing improvement. Aizawa pulled up a screen. Midoriya and Bakugo versus All Might. Silence. Complete. Dead silence. Everyone turned to look at Izuku, who was sleeping with his head on his desk. Then at Bakugo, whose eye had started twitching violently. What? Bakugo exploded from his seat. I have to partner with that sleeping bastard? Sit down, Bakugo. The partnerships are final. Aizawa's scarf began to float threateningly. And Midoriya, wake up. Izuku's right eye cracked open. What? You and Bakugo are fighting All Might for your practical exam. Okay. Izuku closed his eye again. That's it? Just okay? Aizawa's eyebrow twitched. You're fighting the #1 hero and you're going back to sleep? Wake me when it's time to fight. Izuku's voice was already fading. Fighting the symbol of peace sounds less boring than most exams. The class stared. Momo's hand was raised halfway, frozen in place. Todoroki's expression remained neutral, but his left side sparked with small flames. Kirishima looked like he wanted to say something manly, but couldn't find the words. Bakugo sat back down, grinding his teeth so hard it was audible. I'm going to murder him. I'm actually going to murder him. No murdering classmates, Aizawa said flatly. You have 1 week to prepare. Dismissed. The week passed in a blur of studying and training. The written exams came and went. Izuku scored middle of the pack, having slept through most of the lectures but possessing enough natural intelligence to pass. The practical exams were scheduled over 2 days. Izuku and Bakugo's match was saved for last. The finale, the main event that everyone wanted to see. On the morning of their exam, Izuku found Bakugo waiting outside the locker rooms. Listen up, demon, Bakugo said, his voice low and intense. I know you're stronger than me. I know you could probably solo All Might if you wanted. But this is my chance to prove I can fight alongside the strongest without being dead weight. Izuku looked at him with his one open eye. Really looked, saw the determination burning there. You want to actually work together? I want to win. And if that means following your lead for once, Bakugo's jaw clenched. Then that's what I'll do. For the first time since they'd met, Izuku smiled at Bakugo. Not a smirk, not a dismissive expression, an actual smile of respect. All right, Bakugo, let's beat the symbol of peace. They changed into their hero costumes and made their way to the exam site. A replica city district, empty and silent. Buildings rose around them, creating an urban maze perfect for combat. All Might stood in the center plaza, his massive form impossible to miss. He wore weighted bracelets on both wrists, each probably weighing several hundred pounds. Young Midoriya, young Bakugo, I am here to test your limits. His voice boomed across the empty streets. The exam is simple. Either capture me with these handcuffs or escape the designated area within 30 minutes. However, his smile turned predatory. I won't be holding back. Nezu specifically requested I treat this as a real fight. So show me what you've got, future heroes. Midnight's voice came over the speakers. Begin. All Might moved. Boom. The number one hero crossed 50 meters in a single bound, his fist already pulled back for a devastating punch aimed at Bakugo. Detroit. Clang. Izuku's Wado Ichimonji intercepted the punch. The collision created a shockwave that shattered windows in surrounding buildings. Izuku had moved so fast Bakugo barely saw him, one moment standing beside him, the next blocking All Might's attack. Fast, Izuku noted, holding the block. Faster than I expected. All Might's eyes widened behind his smile. And strong, that block should have sent you flying. Takes more than raw strength to move me. Izuku pushed back, forcing All Might to retreat a step. Bakugo recovered from his shock and attacked. Die! Explosions erupted from his palms as he flew forward, aiming for All Might's blind spot. The number one hero twisted, impossibly fast for his size, and backhanded Bakugo out of the air. Young Bakugo, your attacks are too straightforward. Boom! Bakugo crashed through a building wall, but he was already getting back up, more explosions propelling him forward. Izuku drew his other two swords, Enma in his right hand, Sandai Kitetsu in his left. Wado Ichimonji clenched between his teeth, Santoryu's stance. All Might's smile widened. Three-sword style, I've heard of this. Show me what the King of Hell can do. Toragari, slash, an X-shaped energy wave carved through the air toward All Might. The number one hero didn't dodge. He punched it. Detroit, smash! Boom, crash! His fist met the cutting force head-on. The collision created a vortex of wind that scattered debris in all directions. When the dust cleared, All Might's fist was bleeding slightly. Interesting. Your attacks can actually cut me. He sounded genuinely excited. This will be a real fight. Bakugo rejoined the battle, coordinating with Izuku for the first time in their lives. Explosions from the left while Izuku attacked from the right. All Might was forced to dodge, to defend, to actually try, but it wasn't enough. All Might's speed and power were monstrous. Every punch created craters. Every movement broke the sound barrier. He was holding back his full strength, but even at 60 to 70%, he was overwhelming. A direct hit sent Bakugo flying again. Another punch forced Izuku to block with all three swords, the impact sliding him backward 20 feet. You're both strong, All Might declared, but you're not working together. Young Bakugo wants to prove himself. Young Midoriya fights alone out of habit. That's your weakness. He was right. Izuku realized it immediately. They were fighting alongside each other, not with each other. Bakugo, Izuku called out. Stop trying to match him in power. Use your mobility. Keep him off balance while I cut. Don't tell me what to. Bakugo started, then caught himself. He'd promised to follow Izuku's lead. Fine, but you better not miss. Their strategy shifted. Bakugo became the distraction, flying around All Might in unpredictable patterns, forcing the hero to track him. This created openings. Openings Izuku exploited ruthlessly. Onigiri! Slash, slash, slash! 3 simultaneous cuts forced All Might to dodge, but Bakugo was already there with explosions, hurting him into Izuku's next attack. Tatsumaki! Izuku spun like a tornado, but all 3 blades extended. The wind pressure alone was enough to make All Might take the attack seriously. He crossed his arms and tanked it. The spinning cuts hit his forearms, drawing blood. Not deep cuts, All Might's durability was insane, but actual damage. Wonderful. All Might's voice rang with genuine approval. You're making me bleed. Time to get serious. He ripped off his weighted bracelets. Boom, boom. Each bracelet hit the ground with impacts that created craters. The buildings shook. All Might rolled his shoulders. No more weights. Here I come at 100%. The change was immediate and terrifying. All Might's speed doubled. His power tripled. He moved like a force of nature, his fists creating shockwaves that collapsed buildings just from the air pressure. Bakugo was hit mid-flight. The impact so powerful it knocked him unconscious instantly. He crashed to the ground and didn't get up. Izuku stood alone against the symbol of peace going all out. Just you and me now, young Midoriya. All Might's smile was fierce. Show me the power that defeated Stain. Show me what the one-eyed demon can truly do. Izuku tied his green bandana around his forehead. Purple-black energy began leaking from his body. You asked for it, All Might. His voice was calm despite the pressure. Don't blame me when you get hurt. He closed his right eye, the only one he kept open. For just a moment, he stood with both eyes closed. Then his right eye snapped open, blazing with intensity. Santoryu Ogi. The spectral Asura avatar manifested behind him, 30 feet tall. 3 heads, 6 arms each holding a ghostly blade. This was Izuku's quirk's true form, the demon god that gave him his power. All Might's eyes widened. He'd seen reports about this, but seeing it in person was different. The pressure was immense. 3,000 worlds! Shing, 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 Izuku spun. All 9 blades, 3 physical, 6 spectral, created a whirlwind of cutting force that carved through everything. Buildings on both sides were sliced into perfect geometric shapes. The ground beneath their feet disintegrated into gravel. All Might couldn't dodge. The attack covered too much area, so he did the only thing he could. United States of Smash. Boom! His ultimate technique. A punch delivered with absolutely everything he had. Every muscle, every ounce of One For All's power concentrated into a single devastating blow aimed at the center of Izuku's attack. The collision was apocalyptic. Crash! Boom! Boom! The shockwave shattered every window in the exam site. The observation room where teachers watched rattled violently. On nearby monitors, the collision appeared as a white flash that overloaded the cameras. When vision cleared, the battlefield was destroyed. The entire city district had been leveled. Buildings were rubble. The ground was cratered for hundreds of feet. Smoke and dust filled the air. At the epicenter, All Might and Izuku stood facing each other. All Might's arms were bleeding heavily, cut by the wind pressure of Izuku's attack. His costume was shredded. He was breathing hard. Izuku had been pushed back 50 feet, his feet carving trenches in the ground. His swords were intact, still held in his stance. He wasn't bleeding, but the force of stopping All Might's punch had clearly taken effort. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then All Might started laughing. A genuine, joyful sound. Magnificent! Young Midoriya. That was magnificent! I haven't had to use that much power in years. You're strong, Izuku admitted, sheathing his swords. Stronger than anyone I've fought. If you'd been serious from the start, you might have actually won. Might have. All Might's eyebrow rose. You sound certain you'd still win. I am, because I haven't opened my left eye. The temperature dropped. All Might's expression became serious. Your left eye. The reports from USJ mentioned it. The power that destroyed the Nomu. Yeah. When both eyes are open, I'm different, stronger, but I lose control easily, so I keep it sealed. Izuku looked at All Might directly. You're the first opponent since the massacre incident who made me consider opening it. All Might was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. Not his public hero smile, but something softer, more genuine. Good. That's good, young Midoriya. Power without restraint is dangerous, but you've learned to control yourself. That's what makes you different from a villain. I'm not a hero either. Perhaps not. But you saved your classmates at USJ, defeated Stain, fought to protect others. All Might placed a massive hand on Izuku's shoulder. Whatever you call yourself, you're someone who uses strength to protect. That's what matters. Midnight's voice came over the speakers. Time's up. The exam is, well, it's complicated. The entire exam site is destroyed. We're calling this one a mutual victory. All Might laughed again. A draw! I'll take it. Young Midoriya, you've given this old hero quite the workout. You're not old, just past your prime. Izuku's bluntness made All Might's smile twitch. But you're still strong. Thanks for the fight. It wasn't completely boring. High praise from the King of Hell. All Might helped Izuku retrieve the unconscious Bakugo. Your partner fought well too. He has potential. Yeah, loud brat's got spirit. Needs to learn teamwork, but he's not weak. They carried Bakugo to Recovery Girl. The other students' exams had already concluded. Most had passed, a few had failed, but everyone was gathered around monitors showing the aftermath of Izuku and All Might's battle. The destroyed city district, the leveled buildings, the crater where their ultimate attacks had collided. That's not possible, Momo whispered, staring at the footage. That's the kind of destruction major villain attacks cause. Midoriya did that, Todoroki said quietly, and All Might matched him. Actually, Aizawa corrected, appearing behind them and making several students jump. All Might was still holding back. If he'd used One For All at true 100% from the start, even Midoriya would have had trouble. But Midoriya was holding back too, Kirishima pointed out. He didn't open his left eye. Exactly, which is why we called it a draw. Aizawa looked at his students seriously. What you witnessed today is the gap between where you are and where you need to be. Both Midoriya and All Might operate on a different level. Remember that. Later, in Recovery Girl's office, Bakugo woke up to find Izuku sitting against the wall, already dozing. Did we win? Bakugo asked groggily. Drew, Izuku replied without opening his eye. All Might strong. Stronger than I expected. Did you have to carry me out? Yeah. You got one shot pretty hard. Bakugo was silent for a long moment. Then quietly, thanks for not leaving me behind. Izuku's right eye opened, looking at Bakugo with something approaching respect. You followed my lead. Fought well. That's what a crew does. I don't abandon my crew. It was the first time Izuku had called someone crew to their face. Bakugo felt something shift in his chest. Not friendship exactly, but acknowledgement, respect. Next time, Bakugo said, his voice gaining its usual intensity, I won't get knocked out so easily. I'll get strong enough to fight beside you properly. Good. Get stronger. The peak's still far away. They sat in companionable silence until Recovery Girl shooed them both out. 3 weeks later, Class 1A boarded buses bound for their summer training camp in the mountains. The forest facility was owned by the hero team Pussycats and was located deep in a remote mountain range. This'll be great, Kirishima said enthusiastically. Training in nature, pushing our limits, bonding as a class. I'm just glad to get away from the city, Uraraka added. The media's been crazy since the sports festival. Izuku sat at the back of the bus, predictably sleeping. His 3 swords rested against his seat, always within reach. Aizawa stood at the front. Listen up, this training camp will push you harder than anything you've experienced. The goal is to strengthen your quirks and prepare you for provisional licensing exams. No complaining, no quitting. Yes, sir, the class chorused. The buses wound through mountain roads for hours. When they finally stopped, it wasn't at the camp, it was at a cliff overlooking a massive forest. What's going on? Ida asked, confused. The Pussycats appeared, 4 pro heroes in cat-themed costumes. Their leader, Mandalay, grinned. Welcome, kiddies. Your training starts now. You have to cross the Beast's Forest to reach the camp. Use your quirks however you want, but you must arrive by noon tomorrow or no dinner. What? The class started protesting. Also, the forest is full of earth monsters my partner Pixie Bob creates. Have fun. Mandalay's tail swished cheerfully. Before anyone could react, Pixie Bob's quirk activated. The ground beneath the students' feet crumbled. They fell. Screaming, flailing, plummeting toward the forest canopy below, Izuku woke up mid-fall, saw what was happening, and sighed. His hand moved to Enma's hilt. Shing! One slash created a wind pressure wave that slowed everyone's descent. They landed roughly but safely in the forest below. Thanks, Midoriya, several students called out. Whatever. Which way is the camp? Everyone paused, looked around. The forest stretched in every direction, dense and dark. The camp should be north? Momo ventured, creating a compass. Then I'm going this way. Izuku started walking in the complete opposite direction. That's south, Ida shouted. No, it's not. The compass says, compasses lie. This is the right way. An earth monster emerged from the trees, a 10-foot-tall beast made of rock and soil. It roared and charged. Izuku didn't break stride. His hand moved in a blur. Slash! The monster split in half and crumbled to dirt. He continued walking. Okay, we're not following Midoriya's sense of direction, Todoroki declared. Yaoyorozu, lead the way. The class split up. Most followed Momo north. Izuku continued south. Only Bakugo, curious to see where Izuku would end up, followed him. You know you're going the wrong way, right? Bakugo asked. I'm going the right way. Everyone else is wrong. The compass says... I don't trust compasses. That's the stupidest. There's another monster. Slash! Thing I've ever heard. They walked in silence for a while, casually destroying any earth beasts that appeared. Despite going the wrong direction, they somehow ended up at the camp first, arriving just as the sun was setting. The Pussycats stared. How? You went completely the wrong way. We watched on cameras. You walked south. Told everyone else they were wrong, Izuku said smugly, then yawned. Where's food? The rest of the class arrived over the next few hours, exhausted and covered in dirt. They found Izuku already asleep in one of the camp's cabins. He went the wrong direction and arrived first. Kaminari collapsed dramatically. How is that possible? Midoriya's directional sense exists outside normal reality, Momo said, sitting down heavily. I've stopped trying to understand it. The training camp officially began the next day. The Pussycats put them through brutal exercises designed to push their quirks past their limits. Bakugo's explosions in boiling water to increase sweat production. Todoroki alternating between fire and ice to expand his temperature range. Kirishima having his hardening shattered repeatedly to make it stronger. Izuku's training was simple. Carry these weights up the mountain, then back down. Repeat until collapse. He was given weights totaling 5 tons. He carried them up the mountain in 20 minutes. Came back down in 15. Did it again and again. By the 6th trip, the Pussycats were just staring. Is he not getting tired? Pixie Bob asked. His quirk enhances physical capabilities beyond human limits, Mandalay explained. But this is excessive even for him. Izuku completed 10 trips before deciding he was bored and taking a nap under a tree. The first 3 days passed peacefully. Students trained, ate, bathed in the hot springs, and bonded. Izuku remained peripheral to most social activities. He'd eat with the group, but contributed little to conversations beyond occasional blunt observations. But he was observing, watching his classmates grow stronger, watching the bonds between them deepen. On the 3rd night, sitting outside after dinner, Todoroki approached him. "You're different," Todoroki said without preamble. "Obviously." "No, I mean, you've changed since the sports festival. You acknowledge us more. Call us crew." Izuku was quiet for a moment. "You all fought well at the finals, showed conviction. People with conviction are worth protecting. Is that why you accepted us? As crew?" "Yeah, a captain needs a strong crew to reach the peak. I can't do it alone. Learned that the hard way." Todoroki sat beside him. "Your rival, Quina, the one who died." "Yeah. What was she like?" Izuku actually smiled, a rare, genuine expression. "Stronger than me. Faster, better with a blade. We pushed each other to improve, made a promise to both become the strongest swordsmen in the world. But she died. Because I wasn't there. Got lost on the way back to the dojo. Took 3 days to find my way. By the time I arrived, villains had already attacked, killed everyone. Quina fought them alone and died. And you killed them all in revenge. 300 of them, every single one, hunted them down and cut them apart. Izuku's voice was flat, emotionless. That's when I became the one-eyed demon. Do you regret it? Regret killing them? No, they deserved it. Regret not being there to save her? Every day. They sat in silence, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. I won't let that happen again, Izuku finally said. Won't fail my crew. If someone threatens you, Bakugo, Kirishima, Roundface, any of you, I'll cut them down. No hesitation. Even if it means opening your left eye? Especially then. Todoroki nodded slowly. Good, because I consider you my rival, and rivals push each other to the peak together. Took you long enough to catch up to that conclusion. They bumped fists, a gesture of acknowledgement, respect, partnership. On the 4th night, everything went to hell. The students were doing a test of courage in the forest, pairs walking through a dark path, while others tried to scare them using their quirks. It was supposed to be fun. Izuku had opted out, sleeping in his cabin instead. That's when the attack began. Boom! An explosion rocked the camp. Blue flames erupted in the forest. Mandalay's telepathy suddenly echoed in everyone's minds. Everyone! We're under attack by villains. Return to camp immediately. Do not engage. Those who can fight, defend the others. This is not a drill. Izuku's right eye snapped open. He was out of the cabin in seconds. 3 swords already drawn. Purple-black energy leaked from his body. Villains, he muttered. Here. The forest was chaos. Blue flames spread through the trees. Students screamed. Pro-heroes fought desperately against multiple opponents. And standing in the central clearing surrounded by a dozen villains was Tamura Shigaraki. Well, the demon finally wakes up. Shigaraki's voice carried across the camp. We've been waiting for you. Izuku walked forward, his steps deliberate. Students who saw him felt the pressure and backed away. You attacked my school, my camp, my crew. His voice was calm, but the energy around him intensified with each word. Stupid. Oh, I'm not stupid, I'm very smart. See these? Shigaraki gestured to the villains around him. I brought friends, lots of friends. From the forest emerged more villains, dozens of them. And behind them, roar! 5 Nomu stepped into the clearing. Muscle-bound monstrosities with exposed brains, each one built to fight top-tier heroes. We learned from USJ, Shigaraki continued. 1 Nomu wasn't enough, so we brought 5, plus 40 villains, plus the league's best fighters. A man wreathed in blue flames appeared. Dabi, A girl with a schoolgirl outfit and knife, Toga. A man in a magician's costume, Mr. Compress. A muscular villain built like a tank, Muscular. Your move, demon. Can you handle all of us? Izuku's expression didn't change. Easily. He tied his green bandana around his forehead. The villains attacked simultaneously. All 40 of them, plus the Nomu, rushed forward in a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers. Santoryu Ogi, 3,000 worlds! Shing! Izuku spun. The whirlwind of cutting force carved through the first wave of villains like they weren't there. 20 bodies fell in pieces. The Nomu tanked the attack, their shock absorption quirks functioning, but the second wave of villains hesitated. They'd just watched 20 of their allies die in under 3 seconds. Keep attacking, Shigaraki screamed. Wear him down! He can't fight forever! Dabi launched a wave of blue flames. Izuku cut through them with a casual slash. Toga came in fast with her knife, aiming for his neck. He caught her wrist without looking and threw her into a tree hard enough to knock her unconscious. Mr. Compress tried to capture him with his quirk, compressing matter into marbles. Izuku's armament hockey coating prevented it. His sword flashed. Slash! Compress's arm fell off, severed at the elbow. The villain screamed and retreated. Muscular charged in, his muscle fiber quirk bulging grotesquely. Finally! A real fight. Let me test your strength, demon. His punch had enough force to demolish buildings. Izuku blocked it with Enma, the black blade not moving an inch. Weak. Slash! Muscular's enhanced muscles couldn't stop Izuku's cut. The villain fell in 2 pieces. The remaining villains started backing away. They'd been promised the demon was powerful, but this was massacre. The Nomu, Shigaraki shouted desperately. Send all 5 at once. The bioengineered monsters obeyed. They surrounded Izuku, attacking from all angles simultaneously with superhuman speed and strength. Izuku sheathed 2 of his swords, keeping only Wado Ichimonji drawn. You're boring me. All of you. He swung once. It tore you. Yishi! Shishi-san-san! Shing! The draw-cut technique created a compressed air blade so powerful it split reality itself. All 5 Nomu were bisected simultaneously. Their regeneration couldn't keep up. The cut was too fast, too clean, too absolute. They fell in pieces and didn't get back up. Shigaraki stared in horror. That's not possible. Those were high-end Nomu. They cost millions to make. They had multiple quirks each. And they all died the same way. Izuku walked toward Shigaraki, stepping over corpses without breaking stride. You've lost. Run away now and I might let you live. No, this isn't how it's supposed to go. Shigaraki's hands flew to his neck, scratching frantically. You're supposed to struggle, suffer, lose control. Why would I lose control? This fight is easy. Because I'm going to kill your crew. Kurogiri's portals opened. Villains who'd been hiding in the forest emerged, holding students. Uraraka, Todoroki, Kirishima, Tsuyu, and others. Captured. Knives at their throats. Izuku stopped walking. See? Shigaraki's grin was manic behind his hand mask. You're strong, but you can't be everywhere. Can't protect everyone. So here's the deal. Surrender, or I order them killed. All of them. Your precious crew dies while you watch. The students were struggling against their captors. Todoroki had ice forming on his right side, but a villain pressed a blade harder against his throat. Don't! Todoroki called out. Midoriya, don't give in. We can... Shut up! His captor hit him. Kirishima tried to harden, but his captor had some kind of quirk-suppressing effect. Captain, just run. Get help. Stay calm. Uraraka's captor threatened to drop her off the cliff edge. Or she falls. Izuku stood frozen. His mind raced through options. He could attack fast enough to kill most of the captors before they reacted. But most wasn't good enough. Even one student dying was unacceptable. He could wait for heroes, but backup was minutes away. These villains would kill hostages before then. He could surrender. But that meant trusting villains to keep their word. Or, show us, demon. Shigaraki laughed. Show us your full power. Open that left eye. Become the monster everyone fears. It's the only way to save them. The temperature dropped. All the students felt it. The villains felt it. Even Shigaraki felt it. Izuku's hand moved to his face. Fingers touched the hair covering his left eye. No, Todoroki said quietly, understanding what was about to happen. Midoriya, don't. We'll find another. I failed once. Izuku's voice cut him off. Let Kuina die because I wasn't strong enough. I won't make that mistake again. His fingers brushed his hair aside. Even if it means becoming a monster. He opened his left eye. Vom! The world changed. It didn't just change, it warped. Reality bent around Izuku as both eyes blazed with purple-black energy. The ground beneath his feet didn't crack. It shattered. A crater formed, spreading outward in concentric circles for hundreds of feet. Trees didn't just fall, they disintegrated, turned to dust by the sheer pressure radiating from Izuku's body. The temperature plummeted. Frost formed on everything despite it being summer. The air became thick, heavy, hard to breathe. Above Izuku, the spectral Asura avatar manifested. But not at 30 feet like before, 100 feet tall. The demon god towered over the forest, 3 heads each with multiple eyes blazing with otherworldly light. 6 arms, each holding a sword made of pure energy. The avatar was so massive it could be seen from miles away. You wanted to see hell? Izuku's voice came from everywhere at once, from his mouth, from the Asura avatar, from the air itself. It was layered, demonic, the sound of something that should not exist. Here, it is. The pressure intensified. Every villain in the camp fell to their knees. The weaker ones simply passed out from the overwhelming presence. The students being held hostage felt their captors' grips weaken. Shigaraki's eyes were wide with terror and ecstasy. Yes! Yes, this is it! The true demon, all for one sensei. Are you watching? This is the power we need. Izuku moved. He didn't run. He teleported. One moment standing in the crater, the next appearing beside the first hostage. Slash! The villain holding Uraraka was bisected before his brain registered Izuku's presence. The girl fell, and Izuku caught her with one hand while his sword was already swinging toward the next target. Slash, 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 slash! 5 villains died in under a second. The students they'd been holding stumbled free, shocked and terrified. Run, Izuku told them. His voice was still layered, demonic. Get to the camp, now. They ran. Izuku turned to face the remaining villains. There were maybe 15 left, plus Shigaraki, Dabi, and Kurogiri. 9, sword style. The Asura avatar raised all 6 spectral blades. Izuku held his 3 physical swords in stance. Asura, king of hell's judgment. He swung all 9 blades simultaneously. The attack wasn't just cutting force. It was annihilation given form. 9 overlapping waves of energy that didn't just cut, they erased. Buildings were carved into perfect geometric shapes. The forest for a mile around was sliced into sections. The ground split like someone had taken a cosmic blade to a cake. Every remaining villain was hit. Their bodies didn't just die, they ceased to exist, disintegrated at a molecular level. Dabi's flames couldn't protect him. Toga's agility meant nothing. The generic villains simply vanished. When the attack ended, the battlefield was silent. 40-plus villains had attacked the camp. 38 were dead. Most of their bodies were gone, erased completely. Only Shigaraki and Kurogiri remained, having escaped through a portal at the last possible second. Izuku stood in the center of devastation, both eyes still open. The Asura avatar still manifested above him. The forest around the camp was gone, just gone. Trees disintegrated. Ground carved into trenches. The landscape looked like a natural disaster had struck. And still the pressure didn't fade, because Izuku was losing control. The demonic energy kept building. His left eye glowed brighter. The Asura avatar grew larger, more solid, more real. More. His layered voice echoed, "Need to cut more. Destroy more. Kill! Midoriya!" Todoroki's shout cut through the haze. The half-and-half students stood at the edge of the destruction, ice and fire both active. "Close your eye, you're losing yourself." "They threatened you. Threatened my crew. Need to make sure they can't. Already dead." Todoroki created an ice wall between himself and Izuku, not to attack, but to protect himself from the pressure. "Everyone who threatened us is dead. You won. Now close your eye." Bakugo appeared on the other side, explosions ready. "Oh, demon, you said you don't abandon your crew. Well, we're here. We're alive. Mission accomplished. Now get your shit together." Kirishima joined them, his hardening active. "Captain, we need you focused. There might be more villains. We need you in control." Uraraka floated up to eye level with the Asura avatar, zero gravity keeping her airborne. "Midoriya-kun, thank you for saving us, but please come back. We need our friend, not a monster." "Friend?" The words seemed to pierce through Izuku's rage. His left eye flickered. "I have friends?" "Yes, you idiot," Bakugo shouted. "We're your crew, your friends, the people you protect. So stop acting like a mindless beast and come back." The Asura avatar wavered, began to fade. Izuku's left eye dimmed slightly. "Friends," he repeated, his voice becoming more human. "Crew, my responsibility." The pressure lessened. The demonic energy started receding. "Close your eye," Todoroki said more gently. "We're safe now. You can rest." Izuku's hand moved to his face, touched his left eye, and closed it. Click. The transformation reversed instantly. The Asura avatar vanished, the pressure disappeared, the temperature returned to normal. Izuku stood there, both eyes now closed, swaying on his feet. Then he collapsed. Todoroki caught him with an ice slide. Kirishima and Bakugo rushed over. "Is he okay?" Uraraka asked, landing beside them. "Exhausted," Todoroki confirmed. Using that much power, it must have drained him completely. They carried Izuku back to what remained of the camp. The Pussycats and Aizawa were there, having fought off the villains who'd attacked the main building. When they saw the devastation, the missing forest, the carved landscape, the complete absence of enemy bodies, their faces went pale. What happened here?" Mandalay whispered. "Midoriya saved us," Kirishima said simply. "Killed all the villains, then almost lost control." "How many dead?" Aizawa asked, his voice grave. "All of them. Maybe 40 villains total. Only 2 escaped, Shigaraki and the portal guy." Aizawa closed his eyes. This is going to be a nightmare. He was right. The media coverage was immediate and devastating. One-eyed demon massacres villains at UA training camp. 40 plus dead in forest attack. First-year student responsible. Is Izuku Midoriya a hero or a monster? Footage from surveillance cameras showed the battle. Showed Izuku opening his left eye. Showed the Asura avatar, showed the devastation. Public opinion split violently. Some hailed him as a hero who'd saved his classmates. Others called him a monster who'd killed 40 people. "He didn't have to kill them all," one news commentator argued. "Heroes are supposed to capture villains, not slaughter them." "They were threatening students with death," another countered. What was he supposed to do? Negotiate? The Hero Public Safety Commission held emergency meetings. Some members wanted Izuku expelled, arrested, tried as a villain. Nezu shut that down immediately. Izuku Midoriya acted in defense of himself and his classmates against a coordinated villain attack. Every person he killed was actively trying to murder students. This was self-defense and defense of others. If you want to prosecute him, you'll have to go through me first. The principal's statement, backed by security footage showing villains holding knives to students' throats, swayed public opinion slightly. The charges were dropped, but the stigma remained. Izuku woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed. His body ached, his head pounded, but he was alive. Sitting in chairs around his bed were Todoroki, Bakugo, Kirishima, and Uraraka. "You're awake," Todoroki said quietly. "How long?" 3 days. You were completely exhausted by Recovery Girl said you pushed yourself past all safe limits. The villains? Dead. All of them, except Shigaraki and Kurogiri. The ones you killed are... Todoroki paused. They're gone. Not even bodies left to bury. Izuku closed his right eye. I opened my left eye. You saved our lives, Uraraka said firmly. If you hadn't, we'd all be dead. Still, I lost control. Almost couldn't close it again. If you hadn't called out to me... He didn't finish the sentence. But we did, Bakugo said gruffly. Because we're your crew. That's what you said, right? Crew watches out for each other. Since when do you care about being crew? Izuku asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. Since you called me crew first, dumbass. Now we're stuck with each other. Kirishima grinned. We all feel the same way, Captain. You protected us. We'll protect you. That's what crews do. For the first time since Kuina's death, Izuku felt something warm in his chest. Not romantic love, but something just as powerful. The bond of true friendship. Of crew. Thanks, he said quietly. All of you. They stayed with him for hours, talking about nothing important. When visiting hours ended, they left reluctantly. Aizawa came in after they'd gone. How are you feeling? The teacher asked. Tired. Sore. Alive. Good, because we need to talk about what happened. I killed 40 people. In self-defense, against villains actively trying to murder students. The commission investigated and ruled it justified. But the media coverage is brutal. Some people see you as a hero. Others see you as a monster. This will follow you for the rest of your career. Izuku shrugged. I never wanted to be a hero anyway. I'm just here because Nezu said it was better than prison. About that, Aizawa sat down. Nezu wants to talk to you. He has an offer. The principal's office was unchanged from Izuku's first visit. Nezu sat behind his desk, paws folded, expression unreadable. Ah, young Midoriya, please, sit. Izuku sat, uncomfortable in the formal setting. I've reviewed the footage from the training camp incident. Your actions saved the lives of over 30 students. The villains you killed were all confirmed members of the League of Villains with extensive criminal records. By any reasonable metric, you acted heroically. I lost control. Almost couldn't close my left eye. But you did close it. Your friends, your crew as you call them, reached you. That's significant. Why? Because it shows you're not a monster. Monsters can't be reached, can't be reasoned with, can't care about others. Nezu's eyes were sharp. You care deeply about your classmates. That's what separates you from the villains. What's the offer? Direct and to the point. I appreciate that. Nezu pulled out a folder. The Hero Public Safety Commission wants you monitored. They're afraid of your power. I convinced them to let me handle it personally. Meaning? Meaning you'll stay at UA, continue your education, but with conditions. First, you'll meet with a therapist weekly to discuss your control issues. Second, you'll participate in additional ethics courses about heroism. Third, you'll work directly with me on strategies for using your full power without losing control. And if I refuse, then the commission will insist on your expulsion and potential arrest. They're terrified of what you represent, someone with apocalyptic power operating outside their control. Izuku was quiet for a long moment. If I agree, do I have to become a traditional hero, follow all their stupid rules? No, you can continue being exactly who you are, the king of hell, the one-eyed demon, whatever you call yourself. Just use that power to protect people instead of seeking revenge. I already do that. Then we have an agreement. Nezu slid papers across the desk. Sign here. And Midoriya? Thank you for saving your classmates, for choosing control over chaos, for being better than your reputation suggests. Izuku signed the papers without reading them. I'm not doing this for the commission or for UA. I'm doing it for my crew, so they don't have to worry about me losing control. Whatever your motivation, I'm grateful. Now go rest. Classes resume next week. The rest of the summer passed in a blur. Izuku attended therapy sessions that he mostly slept through. The therapist noted, patient shows remarkable lack of emotional disturbance regarding violent acts and possesses sociopathic tendencies but channels them toward protecting others. The ethics courses were boring. Izuku slept through most of them, but the training sessions with Nezu were interesting. The principal pushed Izuku to explore his quirk's limits. How long could he maintain his left eye open before losing control? What triggered the demonic aspects? Could he use partial power without full transformation? They discovered Izuku could open his left eye for approximately 3 minutes before losing rational thought. Beyond that, the Asura avatar took over and he became a mindless destruction machine. 3 minutes, Nezu mused. That's actually longer than I expected. Most transformation-type quirks with berserker elements can only maintain control for seconds. It's not a transformation, Izuku corrected. It's just what I am. The demon is always there. The left eye being closed is a seal, not a different form. Fascinating. So you're essentially fighting your own nature constantly. Yeah, gets tiring. I imagine it does. Nezu made notes. For now, treat your left eye as a last resort. Only open it when the alternative is death, yours or others. Can you live with that? Already do. Classes resumed in September. The atmosphere in Class 1A had changed. Everyone now knew exactly how powerful Izuku was, but instead of fear, most felt safer. It's weird, Kaminari said during lunch. I know Midoriya could kill us all without trying, but somehow that makes me feel protected. Like nothing can hurt us while he's around. That's the power of a strong captain, Kirishima agreed. When you have the strongest person on your side, you can face anything. Even Bakugo had changed. He still challenged Izuku constantly, still pushed himself to close the gap. But there was respect now, acknowledgement that they were crew. Todoroki continued training obsessively, working to master the combination of his fire and ice. He decided his goal was to reach Izuku's level, not surpass him necessarily, but stand beside him as an equal. Ambitious, Izuku commented when Todoroki shared this goal. Is it impossible? Nothing's impossible, but it'll take years, maybe decades. I've been training since I could walk. You're starting late. Then I'll work twice as hard. Izuku smiled. Good answer. The provisional licensing exam came in October. Most students were nervous. This was a major stepping stone to becoming a pro hero. Izuku dominated it casually. The exam involved facing simulated disaster scenarios and villain attacks. Points were awarded for rescues, teamwork, and decision-making. Izuku scored perfect marks in combat, 0 marks in teamwork, he worked alone, middling marks in rescue, he saved people efficiently but without the usual hero smile. He passed anyway. The examiners were too terrified to fail him. Congratulations, the head examiner said, handing over the provisional license. You're now authorized to use your quirk in public for heroic purposes. Cool. Can I go now? I'm hungry. Yes, of course. Izuku walked out of the exam hall and promptly got lost looking for the cafeteria. While Izuku was taking his licensing exam, a major operation was underway. The heroes had located the League of Villains' main hideout and were launching a coordinated raid. All Might led the assault personally. His target, All For One, the ancient villain who'd been manipulating events from the shadows. The battle was legendary. All Might faced All For One in a ruined district, trading blows that shattered buildings. The symbol of peace fought with everything he had, every ounce of One For All, every technique he'd perfected over decades. All For One matched him, enhanced with dozens of quirks. The ancient villain was a monster of power. The fight lasted hours. It was broadcast live across Japan. Everyone watched as their greatest hero battled ultimate evil. In the end, All Might won. But at terrible cost, he used the last reserves of One For All, pushing himself beyond all limits. United States of Smash, his ultimate technique, delivered one final time. All For One fell, defeated, but not dead. Arrested, imprisoned. But All Might's power was gone. One For All extinguished, used up completely in that final clash. The symbol of peace stood before cameras, his muscular form shrinking to reveal his true skeletal appearance. And he spoke words that shook the nation. I can no longer fight as a hero. My time is over. But do not fear, because new heroes are rising. The next generation will protect you. I believe in them. He pointed at the camera. I believe in you. All of you who aspire to heroism. The world is yours now. Plus ultra. Then he collapsed, exhausted but alive. Izuku watched the broadcast from UA's common room. The entire class had gathered around the TV. When All Might revealed his true form, gasps echoed through the room. When he declared his retirement, Uraraka started crying. When All Might collapsed, Todoroki's fists clenched. Izuku stood and walked out of the room. Midoriya? Kirishima called after him. Where are you going? Need air. He found himself on the roof, his usual thinking spot. The city stretched below, lights twinkling as evening fell. All Might had retired. The symbol of peace was gone. Should have been there, Izuku muttered. Could have helped, could have made it easier for him. But the teachers had forbidden his participation. Too dangerous, they said. Too much risk of collateral damage. They'd been right. If Izuku had opened his left eye in the middle of that battle, half the city might have been destroyed. But still, watching a hero sacrifice himself when Izuku possessed the power to help. I need to get stronger, he said to the night sky. Strong enough to protect everyone. Strong enough that no one else has to sacrifice themselves. His hand moved to Wado Ichimonji, Queena's blade. I won't fail again. I swear it. The following months brought new challenges. A villain organization called the Shihasai Kai emerged, led by a man named Overhaul. They were experimenting on a young girl named Eri. Using her quirk to create weapons, the heroes launched a raid. Izuku participated as part of a student work-study program. The raid was intense. Pro heroes fought through Overhaul's base facing enhanced villains. Sir Night-Eye, a prediction-based hero, was injured severely. Izuku's group encountered Overhaul directly. The villain's quirk let him deconstruct and reconstruct matter. He'd fused with one of his subordinates, creating a monstrous form. Stand back, Izuku told his group. I'll handle this. By yourself? Mirio, a third-year student, protested. He's too dangerous for... Slash! Izuku's single sword swing bisected Overhaul's monstrous form. The attack was so fast, so precise, that Overhaul didn't have time to reconstruct himself. He fell, defeated in one hit. Your quirk rewrites matter, Izuku said, sheathing his sword. My blades cut through matter itself. It's a bad matchup for you. They rescued Eri, the young girl Overhaul had been experimenting on. She was traumatized, terrified, her white hair dirty, and her red eyes wide with fear. When Izuku approached, she flinched. Easy, he said quietly. I'm not going to hurt you. You're safe now. I'm safe? Yeah, the bad man's gone. We're taking you somewhere safe. Eri started crying. Izuku, awkward with emotional situations, patted her head clumsily. Don't cry. Crying's boring. Be strong instead. Despite the blunt words, Eri felt comforted. Something about Izuku's presence made her feel protected. From that day forward, she attached herself to him, would only eat if Izuku was nearby, would only sleep if he promised to protect her. "You've acquired a daughter," Aizawa observed dryly. "I'm 15. I can't have a daughter." "Tell that to the girl who literally won't leave your side." Izuku looked down at Eri, who was clutching his hand and glaring at anyone who came too close. "Fine, but she's part of the crew now. Anyone threatens her, I kill them." "Please don't phrase it like that in front of the Child Protective Services." Eri's presence at UA changed things. She was placed in the dorms under protective custody, and she latched onto Izuku completely. "You remind me of someone," Izuku told her one day. "Who?" "My friend Quina. She was strong, brave, didn't let anyone push her around." "Was she nice?" "Not really, but she was honest, loyal, protected her friends." "Like you?" Izuku paused. "Yeah, like me." Eri smiled, her first genuine smile since being rescued. "Then I want to be like both of you." Something in Izuku's chest warmed. Good goal. The cultural festival came in November. Class 1A decided to put on a concert. Jiro's idea, enthusiastically supported by most of the class, Izuku opted out of performing. "I'll guard the perimeter," he said. "Make sure no villains attack during the festival." "You just want to nap somewhere," Bakugo accused. That too. The festival itself was peaceful. Eri attended, experiencing her first normal event. She smiled, laughed, even danced a little to Class 1A's music. Izuku watched from the roof, genuinely pleased that his crew was happy and safe. The joint training exercise with Class 1B came next, an opportunity for both classes to showcase their growth. Izuku's match was anticlimactic. He faced 5 Class 1B students simultaneously. Their strategy involved overwhelming him with numbers and coordination. It lasted 30 seconds. Toragari. Slash. All 5 opponents were disarmed, their weapons and support gear sliced apart. They stood frozen, realizing they could have been cut in half just as easily. "You lose," Izuku said simply. "Next match." Class 1B learned a valuable lesson that day. Overwhelming numbers mean nothing against someone who can cut reality itself, but the exercise did show something important. Class 1A had grown significantly. Todoroki's ice-fire combination was smoother, Bakugo's explosions were more controlled, Kirishima's hardening was stronger. They were reaching higher, climbing toward the peak, just as Izuku had challenged them to do. January brought warning signs. Prisons reported increased villain activity, coordinated attacks on hero agencies, mysterious Nomu sightings. Something was building. The Hero Public Safety Commission called an emergency meeting. All top heroes attended, including UA's staff. "We have intelligence suggesting a major attack is imminent," the commission's president announced. "The League of Villains has reformed under new leadership. All for One is imprisoned," Endeavor said. "Who could be leading them now?" The screen displayed footage, grainy security camera shots of a white-haired figure with hands covering his body. Tamura Shigaraki. "He's evolved. Our analysts believe he's somehow inherited All for One's quirk powers. He's become something new. Something worse." More footage played. Shigaraki walking through a city, touching buildings. They disintegrated instantly, crumbling to dust. His decay quirk has grown stronger. He can destroy entire city blocks with a touch, and intelligence suggests he possesses multiple other quirks as well. "Like All for One," Nezu said quietly. "Exactly. We believe All for One transferred his consciousness into Shigaraki's body before being imprisoned, created a successor with all his power and knowledge." The room went silent. "There's more." The president pulled up another image. Shigaraki has declared a target. One specific person he intends to destroy. Izuku's photo appeared on screen, his provisional hero license picture. Izuku Midoriya, the one-eyed demon. Shigaraki blames him personally for the deaths of League members at the training camp. He's declared that he'll destroy every city in Japan until Midoriya faces him. All eyes turned to where Izuku sat in the back row. He was sleeping. "Midoriya!" Aizawa's scarf wrapped around him and yanked him awake. "What? Is it lunch?" "The ultimate villain has declared war specifically on you and you're sleeping?" "Oh, that." Izuku yawned. "Yeah, I figured he'd come after me eventually. The ones who survive always want revenge." "This isn't a joke." The commission president's face was red. "Shigaraki possesses city-destroying power? If he follows through on his threats, then I'll kill him before he destroys any cities. Izuku's tone was matter-of-fact. Simple solution. You can't just... We need to formulate a strategy, coordinate with heroes. Plan. No. Izuku stood. Planning wastes time. Shigaraki wants to fight me. I want to fight him. We'll settle this. Young Midoriya, All Might spoke up, his skinny form somehow still commanding respect. I understand your confidence, but even you must recognize the danger. All for One was the most powerful villain I ever faced. If Shigaraki has inherited that power, then I'll open my left eye and erase him from existence. The temperature dropped slightly. Every hero in the room felt it, a reminder of what Izuku truly was. The training camp showed what happens when both my eyes are open, Izuku continued. I killed 40 villains in seconds. Shigaraki's just one person. I'll cut him down the same way. And the collateral damage? Nezu asked carefully. When you opened your left eye at camp, you destroyed a square mile of forest. If that happens in a city, then we fight somewhere empty, a desert, abandoned district, somewhere lives won't be endangered. Izuku looked around the room. I'm not going to let Shigaraki destroy cities, but I'm also not going to let heroes die fighting something meant for me. This is my fight. We could help, Endeavor suggested. Multiple top heroes coordinating would die. Izuku's bluntness made several heroes bristle. No offense, but most of you can't survive the attacks I'll be throwing around. You'd just be casualties. Arrogant, someone started. Not arrogant, realistic. Ask All Might. He fought me during finals. Tell them what happened. All Might was quiet for a moment. Then, young Midoriya matched me blow for blow. Our clash destroyed an entire training ground, and he did it without opening his left eye. If he'd used full power, the former #1 hero paused, I would have lost. The room went silent, the symbol of peace, the strongest hero of their generation admitting he'd lose to a first-year student. So here's what's going to happen, Izuku said into the silence. Shigaraki will attack. I'll face him, and I'll kill him. Anyone who wants to help can keep civilians safe and stop his subordinates, but the main fight is mine. The commission president started to argue. Nezu cut him off. Young Midoriya's assessment is correct. Trying to involve other heroes in a battle of that magnitude would result in unnecessary casualties. Let him handle Shigaraki. We'll manage everything else. The decision was made. Now, they just had to wait for Shigaraki to make his move. 2 weeks later, Shigaraki's broadcast appeared on every screen in Japan. His face filled TVs, phones, computers, everywhere. The white-haired villain sat in a throne made of bones, his expression manic. Hello, Japan. I am Tamura Shigaraki, the new symbol of chaos, and I have a message for one person specifically. The camera zoomed in on his face. Izuku Midoriya, the one-eyed demon, the king of hell. The king of hell. You killed my friends, my family. You slaughtered them like animals at your training camp. So I'm going to return the favor. Starting now, I will destroy 1 city per day until you face me. Every death is on your hands. Every building that crumbles is your fault. He stood, touching the throne. It disintegrated to dust. I'll be waiting in Jaku City. It's already been evacuated. All for One taught me many things, including that killing civilians is boring compared to crushing heroes. Come face me, demon. Let's see if your full power can match mine. I'm betting it can't. The broadcast ended. Across Japan, panic erupted, but UA students had a different reaction. In the Class 1A dorms, Izuku stood up from the couch. I'm going, he said simply. We're coming with you, Todoroki replied immediately. Like hell, Izuku shot back. This is your fight, we know. Bakugo stood. But you said we're crew. Crew doesn't let their captain face monsters alone. I also said the peak requires a strong crew. Kirishima hardened his arms. Can't reach the peak if we hide when things get dangerous. You'll all die. Maybe. Uraraka activated her quirk, floating slightly. But we'd rather die fighting beside you than live knowing we abandoned you. Izuku looked around the room, saw determination in every face. Todoroki, Bakugo, Kirishima, Uraraka, Tsuyu, Ida, Momo, all ready to follow him into hell, his crew. Fine, he said quietly, but you stay back during the actual fight. Deal with his subordinates, rescue anyone who needs it. The main battle is mine alone. Deal, Todoroki agreed. They left that night, against school rules, against orders, against every regulation, but they were crew, and crew protected their captain, even if that captain was a demon. Jaku City was a ghost town. The industrial district had been evacuated completely. No civilians, no heroes, just empty buildings and silent streets. The perfect battlefield. Shigaraki waited in the city center, sitting on a pile of rubble. Around him stood what remained of the League of Villains, maybe 20 villains total, plus several high-end Nomu. He felt Izuku's approach before seeing him. That familiar pressure, that demonic presence. The one-eyed demon emerged from the shadows, 3 swords at his waist. Behind him, his crew spread out, Todoroki moving right, Bakugo left, Kirishima and the others taking positions around the battlefield's perimeter. "You came," Shigaraki said, standing. "I wasn't sure you would. Thought maybe you'd send heroes to die in your place. I don't hide behind others." Izuku's voice was calm. "You wanted me. Here I am. Good. Very good." Shigaraki's fingers twitched. "All for One Sensei wanted me to test something. Said you're the strongest threat to our plans, that your power might even exceed his at full potential. Smart man. Too bad you killed him by letting him possess your body." "I didn't kill him. We merged. His knowledge, my youth, our combined power." Shigaraki's skin began to crack, revealing a black substance beneath. "I'm everything he was and more." His transformation completed. Shigaraki's body was now covered in the same black material, All for One's quirk manifesting physically. His hands sprouted additional fingers. His face split into a grotesque grin. "I have all his quirks, every single one. Hundreds of them, plus my own decay, enhanced beyond anything you saw before." He touched the ground. Crack, 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 crack! Decay spread in all directions, disintegrating buildings, streets, everything. The wave of destruction spread for hundreds of feet before stopping. "See? I can destroy entire districts now, and that's just one quirk." Izuku tied his green bandana around his forehead. "Impressive. You've gotten stronger. Strong enough to kill you. We'll see." Shing, shing, shing. Izuku drew all 3 swords, Wado Ichimonji in his mouth, Enma in his right hand, Sandai Katetsu in his left, Santoryu stance. "Come on then," he said around the blade in his teeth. "Show me what a fake All for One can do." Shigaraki attacked. Dozens of quirks activated simultaneously. Air cannons, fire blasts, hardening, strength enhancement. A coordinated assault that would have killed most heroes instantly. "Onigiri! Giri! Slash, slash, slash!" Izuku's 3-directional attack carved through the quirk barrage like it was nothing. His blades, coated in armament hockey, cut through energy and matter alike. They clashed at the center of the battlefield. Clang, clang, clang! Shigaraki had created blades from his fingers, matching Izuku's 3-sword style with grotesque limb weapons. Every clash created shockwaves that shattered nearby buildings. "You're good." Shigaraki laughed, his voice layered with All for One's echo. "Better than I expected. But can you handle this?" He activated a quirk combination, multiplier plus rivets plus warping. 100 attacks from impossible angles, all warped through space to hit Izuku simultaneously from blind spots. "Tatsumaki! Woom!" Izuku spun, creating a tornado of cutting force that intercepted every attack. The ground around him carved into a perfect circle. "My turn. Toragari!" Slash, an X-shaped energy wave shot toward Shigaraki. The villain tried to use All for One's quirk-stealing ability to absorb it. The attack cut through the absorption field and carved into Shigaraki's chest. Blood sprayed. "Argh!" Shigaraki stumbled back. That's not a quirk. I can't steal it." "Told you, I'm a demon. My power isn't something you gave me. It's what I am." Izuku pressed the attack. His swords became a blur. Dozens of slashes per second, each one capable of bisecting buildings. Shigaraki defended desperately. He had regeneration quirks that healed his wounds, but Izuku's attacks were coming too fast. Blood loss was making him slower. "Fine!" Shigaraki screamed. "If I can't steal your quirk, I'll just destroy you with overwhelming power." He touched the ground again, but this time didn't just activate decay, he activated everything. Every quirk All for One had collected. Every power he'd stolen. All released simultaneously in a desperate bid to overwhelm Izuku through sheer variety. Fire, ice, lightning, air pressure, gravity manipulation, matter restructuring. Reality itself warped around Shigaraki as hundreds of quirks activated. The attack was apocalyptic. If it had been used in a populated city, thousands would have died instantly. Izuku stood at the center of the storm, his swords raised. Interesting, but still not enough. Santoryu Ogi. 3,000 worlds! Shing, 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 shing! He spun, all 3 blades creating a vortex of cutting force that clashed with Shigaraki's quirk storm head-on. Boom! Crash! Woom! The collision created a shockwave visible from space. The ground beneath them shattered. Buildings for blocks around collapsed. When the dust cleared, both fighters were still standing. But Shigaraki was bleeding heavily. His chest carved with dozens of cuts. His regeneration struggling to keep up. Izuku was unharmed. His swords gleamed, unmarked. "You're strong," Izuku acknowledged. "Stronger than anyone except All Might, but you're not strong enough to beat me with just quantity." "Then I'll use quality." Shigaraki's wounds healed faster as he activated every regeneration quirk at once, all for one's ultimate technique, the one he used against All Might. Black energy gathered in his hands. Not from one quirk, but from hundreds combining into a single devastating attack. Hell's Gate! He thrust both hands forward. A beam of pure destructive force shot toward Izuku. Every quirk's offensive capability compressed into one concentrated blast. The attack was so powerful it carved a trench through the city. Buildings simply ceased to exist in its path. Izuku coated all three swords in armament haki. The blades turned completely black. Dragon Damnation. Crack! One slash. All his strength behind it, the black blade cut through Hell's Gate like scissors through paper. The attack split in half, the separated beams shooting past Izuku harmlessly. Shigaraki's eyes widened. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible. You just haven't seen real power yet. Izuku's left eye twitched beneath his hair. Around them, the battle raged. Todoroki, Bakugo, and the others were fighting Shigaraki's subordinates. The League's remaining members and the high-end Nomu. Todoroki created massive ice walls while launching fire blasts, forcing two Nomu back. Bakugo's explosions destroyed another Nomu's head, his enhanced combat skills letting him fight the bio-engineered monster to a standstill. Kirishima, hardened to his limits, protected Uraraka as she made debris float to crush villains from above. They were winning their fights. But barely. Then one of the high-end Nomu broke through. It grabbed Todoroki, its claws piercing his side. "Todoroki!" Uraraka screamed. The Nomu prepared to rip Todoroki in half. Izuku saw it from across the battlefield, saw his crew member about to die. No. His hand moved to his face. Not again. He brushed his hair aside. "I won't fail my crew." He opened his left eye. Reality shattered. The transformation was instant and complete. Both of Izuku's eyes blazed with purple-black energy so intense it was visible from miles away. The ground beneath his feet didn't just crack, it disintegrated, turned to dust, and blown away by the pressure emanating from his body. The temperature plummeted to sub-zero. Frost formed on everything within a quarter mile. The air itself seemed to freeze. Above Izuku, the Asura avatar manifested. Not 100 feet tall like at the training camp. 500 feet tall, the spectral demon god towered over the battlefield, visible from across the city. 3 heads, each with 9 eyes blazing with otherworldly light. 6 arms, each holding a sword made of pure destructive energy. The avatar was so massive, so real, that it blocked out the sun. Its shadow fell across the entire district. "You hurt my crew." Izuku's voice came from everywhere. From his body, from the avatar, from the sky itself, layered, demonic, the sound of something that had transcended human limits. The Nomu holding Todoroki looked up at the avatar. Even its engineered brain registered fear. Unforgivable. Izuku moved. Not running, teleporting. One instant standing where he'd been, the next appearing beside the Nomu. Slash! One cut. The Nomu didn't just die, it ceased to exist, erased at a molecular level, leaving not even dust behind. Todoroki fell, his wounds severe but not fatal. Uraraka caught him with her quirk. "Midoriya," Todoroki whispered, staring up at his transformed friend. "Your eye. Close your eyes." Izuku's layered voice made the command impossible to disobey. "All of you, close your eyes. Don't look at what comes next." His crew obeyed without question. Even Bakugo, stubborn to his core, closed his eyes. Izuku turned to face Shigaraki. The villain was backing away, his expression a mixture of terror and ecstasy. "Yes! Yes! This is it! The true demon! All for one, Sensei, I've drawn him out! The ultimate power! You wanted to see hell?" Izuku raised all 3 physical swords. Above him, the Asura avatar raised all 6 spectral blades. "I'll show you the abyss." 9-sword style. The swords began to glow. Not with energy, but with something darker. Something that made reality itself recoil. Ashura, king of hell. The spectral blades merged with the physical ones. All 9 became real, solid manifestations of pure annihilation. 9-world severance. He swung all 9 blades simultaneously. Shing, 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 shing. 9 attacks from 9 impossible angles, each one transcending normal cutting force. These weren't air pressure slashes or energy waves. These were cuts that severed reality itself. Shigaraki tried to defend. Activated every defensive quirk All for One had collected. Barriers, regeneration, phasing, warping, none of it mattered. The 9 cuts ignored defenses, ignored regeneration, ignored the laws of physics. They hit Shigaraki from every direction simultaneously. For a moment, the villain stood there, untouched. Then his body began to split apart, not bleeding, not falling in pieces, just separating, along 9 perfect lines that carved him into geometric sections. This can't. Shigaraki's voice came from all the sections simultaneously. All for One's power should be invincible. Nothing is invincible. Izuku's layered voice was cold, absolute. Everything can be cut. Even you, even All for One, even the concept of evil itself. Shigaraki's separated pieces began to disintegrate. Not into ash or dust, into nothing. Pure void where his body had been. I underestimated you. His consciousness, All for One's stolen knowledge, every quirk he'd absorbed, all of it erased. Within seconds, Tamura Shigaraki ceased to exist. Not dead. Erased. Removed from reality itself. The ultimate villain, the inheritor of All for One's legacy, the threat to all Japan, gone. Izuku stood in the center of devastation, both eyes still blazing with demonic light. Around him, the battlefield was unrecognizable. The 9 cuts hadn't just hit Shigaraki, they'd carved through the entire city. Buildings for miles were split into perfect geometric shapes. The ground showed 9 massive trenches radiating outward from where Shigaraki had stood. Each trench was hundreds of feet deep, miles long, carved by the residual force of Izuku's attack. Above, the clouds had been split into 9 sections, creating a massive asterisk pattern visible from orbit. The destruction was apocalyptic. Biblical, the kind of power that shouldn't exist in a human, and Izuku was losing control again. The demonic energy kept building. His left eye glowed brighter, the Asura avatar grew larger, more solid, more real. More, need to destroy more. Cut everything. Sever the world itself. Midoriya, Bakugo's shout. Desperate, filled with genuine fear. Close your eye, the fight's over, you won. Not done. Still enemies, still threats. There are no threats. Todoroki's voice, strained from his injury, but determined. Shigaraki's dead. The League is defeated. Everyone's safe. Safe! The word penetrated the red haze in Izuku's mind. Yes, safe, Kirishima shouted. Because of you. You protected us. Mission accomplished, Captain. Protected. Crew. The pressure lessened slightly. The Asura avatar flickered. Uraraka floated up to where she could see Izuku's face, despite the pressure trying to force her down. Midoriya-kun, we're okay. All of us. Your crew is safe. You can rest now. Her voice was gentle, genuine, not commanding, just caring. My crew is safe. The demonic energy began receding. The Asura avatar started fading. Close your eye, Todoroki said softly. Trust us. We've got everything under control now. Izuku's hand moved to his face, trembling slightly, not from weakness, but from the effort of maintaining control. His fingers touched his left eye. Crew is safe. He closed it. Click. The transformation reversed instantly. The Asura avatar vanished. The pressure disappeared. The temperature returned to normal. Izuku stood there, both eyes now closed, swaying. I protected them. His legs gave out. Bakugo caught him before he hit the ground. The blonde was bleeding from multiple wounds, but still functional. Yeah, you dumbass. You protected all of us. Now rest. Izuku's eyes closed fully as exhaustion claimed him. The battle was over. All for One's legacy ended. Shigaraki erased from existence. The League of Villains scattered and broken, and the one-eyed demon finally at peace. Epilogue, King of Hell. 3 months later, recovery was long. Izuku spent weeks in the hospital, his body recovering from the strain of opening both eyes. The doctors marveled that he'd survived. The energy readings from his transformation had been off the charts. Todoroki's injury healed, though it left a scar. He wore it proudly. Battle scar from fighting beside the King of Hell, he said when asked about it. Worth it. The media coverage was unprecedented. One-eyed demon erases All for One's successor. The Battle of Jakku City, how one student saved Japan. Is Izuku Midoriya the strongest hero alive? Public opinion had shifted completely. Even those who'd feared him before now recognized what he'd done. He'd saved the nation from apocalyptic destruction. The Hero Public Safety Commission wanted to give him awards, commendations, official recognition. Izuku declined all of it. I didn't fight for recognition. Fought to protect my crew. That's all. But his reputation was sealed. The king of hell, the one-eyed demon, the strongest hero of his generation, and possibly of any generation, UA held a memorial service for Sir Night-Eye, who'd succumbed to injuries from the Shiosaikai raid. Izuku attended, standing in the back. I could have saved him, he told All Might afterward. If I'd opened my eye during that fight instead of waiting. You can't save everyone, young Midoriya. All Might's skinny form somehow still radiated wisdom. I learned that the hard way. Even with all your power, you're still one person. Then I need to get stronger, strong enough to be everywhere when needed. That's impossible. Everything was impossible until it isn't. All Might smiled. You remind me of myself at your age, determined to change the world through sheer force of will. Did it work for you? Sometimes. But the most important lesson I learned was that heroes need support, people they can rely on when their own strength isn't enough. Izuku thought of his crew, Todoroki, Bakugo, Kirishima, Uraraka, and the others who'd fought beside him at Jakku. I have that now. A crew strong enough to stand with me. Then you're already stronger than I was. It took me decades to learn to rely on others. You learned it at 15. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over UA's campus. 6 months later, the provisional licensing exam's second stage came around. This time, Izuku actually tried during the teamwork portions. His group, Todoroki, Bakugo, and Kirishima, dominated every scenario. They'd fought together in real combat, faced actual death. These simulations were trivial. Congratulations, the examiner said, handing over their full hero licenses. You're now officially authorized to operate as pro heroes. Cool, Izuku said. Can we go eat now? Even the examiner had to smile at that. Classes continued. Second year brought new challenges, new training, new growth, but nothing that truly tested Izuku. He'd fought the ultimate evil and won. Everything else felt small in comparison. You look bored, Aizawa observed during a training session. Because I am. These exercises are too easy. Then make it harder for yourself. Don't use your swords, fight hand to hand only. Izuku tried it. Made things slightly more interesting. Now do it with one hand tied behind your back. That worked for a while. Now do it blindfolded. Finally, something approaching a challenge, Eri had been officially adopted. Not by Izuku, who was still a minor, but by UA itself under Nezu's guardianship. She lived in special dorms and attended classes to catch up on her education, but she still spent most of her time with Izuku. Big brother, she called him now. He didn't correct her. What? When I grow up, can I be strong like you? You're already strong. You survived overhaul. That takes strength most people don't have. But I want to protect people, like you protected everyone at that battle. Izuku was quiet for a moment. Then he unstrapped Wado Ichimonji and held it out. This was my friend Queena's sword. She was the strongest person I knew. When she died, I promised to carry both our dreams to become the strongest swordsman in the world. Did you succeed? Yeah, I'm the strongest now. No one can beat me with a blade. So what do you do now? The question caught him off guard. What did he do now? He'd fulfilled his promise to Quina, defeated every enemy, reached the peak. I guess I find new peaks to climb, new goals to reach. Like what? Like making sure people like you never have to suffer again, making sure monsters like Overhaul and All for One never rise again. Is that a hero's job? I don't know. I'm not really a hero. But everyone says you are. Everyone's wrong. I'm just a demon who happens to protect people. Eri smiled. Then when I grow up, I want to be a demon too. A demon who protects people like you do. Something in Izuku's chest warmed again. That same feeling he got around his crew. The bond of genuine connection. All right, I'll teach you, but you have to promise to work hard. I promise. And eat your vegetables. That's mean. Demons don't care about being mean. We care about results. 1 year later, UA's third-year classes were the most intense. Students worked as hero sidekicks, gaining real-world experience while completing their education. Izuku and his core crew, officially called the Demon's Crew, now operated independently. They had offers from every top agency, but declined them all. Why work for someone else when we can work for ourselves? Bakugo argued during a planning meeting. We need an agency license for that, Momo pointed out. Requires at least one hero with 3 years of experience. Then we'll work under someone until we qualify. Todoroki pulled out a list. Hawks offered us positions, said he likes our direct approach. Hawks is fast. Could be interesting. Izuku considered it. Fine, we'll join his agency as a group, but we operate independently. Our crew, our rules. They signed with Hawk's agency. The number 2 hero was thrilled to have the strongest young heroes under his banner, even if they mostly did their own thing. Their first major case came 2 months into their partnership. A villain syndicate had taken over an entire district, holding civilians hostage. Multiple pro-heroes had failed to breach their defenses. We'll handle it, Izuku told Hawks. All of you? This is a big operation. You might want backup. We're the Demon's crew. We don't need backup. They infiltrated the district at night. Todoroki's ice created a perimeter. Bakugo's explosions destroyed their communications. Kirishima's hardening let him tank hits while Uraraka repositioned hostages to safety. And Izuku cut through every defense like paper. The villains never stood a chance. By dawn, every criminal was in custody, every hostage safe, and the Demon's crew was already gone, moving to their next case. Hawks watched the news coverage and shook his head in amazement. They're already operating like top pros, and Midoriya, he's barely even trying. It was true. Izuku had defeated the entire operation without drawing his swords once, just hand-to-hand combat and raw physical strength, because nothing challenged him anymore. The enemies were too weak, the stakes too low, the battles too easy. He was bored again. Graduation day. 3 years after the Jaku battle, UA High School's graduation ceremony was held in the main auditorium. Every member of Class 1A was present, dressed in formal attire. Izuku wore his hero costume instead. 3 swords at his waist, green bandana tied around his forehead. He'd argued with the faculty about proper dress code and lost, so he compromised by at least combing his hair. Principal Nezu gave the commencement speech. Today, you graduates represent hope for the future. You've trained for 3 years, faced real villains, overcome challenges that would break most people. You are ready to become professional heroes. He paused, his eyes finding Izuku in the crowd. Some of you have already achieved legendary status, fought battles that will be remembered for generations, saved lives on a scale most heroes never reach. Everyone knew who he was talking about. But remember, being a hero isn't about power alone. It's about using that power to protect those who cannot protect themselves. It's about standing up when others fall. It's about hope. The ceremony continued with individual recognitions. Todoroki received top academic honors. Bakugo received the Most Improved Combat Skills Award. Momo received the Strategic Excellence Award. When Izuku's name was called, the auditorium fell silent. Izuku Midoriya, top combat skills, most villain defeats, most civilians saved. Nezu paused. Also most property damage, most violations of protocol, and most ethical complaints filed. Scattered laughter from the crowd. But none of that changes the fact that you are, without question, the strongest hero to ever graduate from UA High School. Your power is unmatched. Your dedication to protecting others, despite your unconventional methods, is undeniable. Nezu held out a special commendation, a medal reserved for the highest achievements, for saving Japan from All for One's successor, for protecting your fellow students on multiple occasions, for facing threats that should have been impossible for someone your age. I present you with UA's highest honor, the Symbol of Strength Award. Izuku walked up to accept it. As Nezu placed the medal around his neck, the principal whispered, "Use that strength wisely, young Midoriya. The world will look to you now. Whether you call yourself a hero or not, you are one. Own it." Izuku looked at the medal. It was heavy, solid gold, engraved with UA's emblem. "I'll try," he said quietly, "for my crew. That's all any of us can do." 1 month after graduation, the Demon's crew established their agency in a renovated warehouse in downtown Tokyo. Nothing fancy, just a practical space with training rooms, living quarters, and an office. Their agency license application had been fast-tracked after Hawks vouched for them. Technically, Todoroki had 3 years of experience counting their work-study periods, making him the qualifying member, but everyone knew Izuku was the leader. Their agency name was simple, Demon King Agency. The logo was Izuku's 3 swords crossed beneath an Asura avatar. Their first day officially operating independently, they received over 100 case requests. We can't handle all of these, Momo said, reviewing the files. We'd need a full agency staff. Then hire people, Izuku replied. Find competent heroes who want to work with us. You really think people will want to work with the King of Hell? Some will. The strong ones. The ones who want to actually make a difference instead of just collecting paychecks. He was right. Within a week, they'd recruited a dozen heroes, mostly recent graduates or veterans who respected Izuku's power and the crew's effectiveness. The Demon King Agency quickly gained a reputation, fastest response time in Tokyo. Highest success rate, 0 casualties on their watch, but also property damage through the roof, completely ignores protocol. The boss sleeps during meetings. It was perfect. 6 months later, Izuku stood at Quina's grave he visited monthly now, always alone. His crew understood this was personal time. I did it, Quina. Became the strongest swordsman in the world, stronger than anyone who came before. The grave was simple, a marble headstone with her name and dates, fresh flowers that Izuku always brought. I've got a good crew now, Todoroki, Bakugo, Kirishima, Uraraka, the others. They're strong, getting stronger every day. He placed Wado Ichimonji, her sword, against the headstone temporarily. I've been thinking, you were stronger than me back then, faster, better with a blade. If you'd lived, you'd probably be even stronger than I am now. The wind rustled through nearby trees. But you didn't live. So I carry both our dreams, both our strengths. Everything you could have been, I have to become instead. His hand clenched into a fist. I won't waste it. Won't waste what you gave me. The drive to become stronger, the oath we made together, the promise to reach the peak. He retrieved Wado Ichimonji and sheathed it. Rest easy, Quina. The world's safer now. All for One is gone. The major threats are handled. I've got a crew to protect and train, people who count on me. He bowed to the grave, a gesture of respect he showed no one else. Thank you for being my rival, for pushing me, for giving me a goal worth chasing. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and I adopted a kid. Sort of. Her name's Eri. She's got your same stubborn determination. I think you'd like her. The wind picked up, almost like a response. Izuku smiled. Yeah, I thought so too. He walked away from the grave, hands in his pockets, 3 swords clinking at his waist. Behind him, the setting sun cast long shadows. But Izuku Midoriya, the one-eyed demon, the king of hell, the strongest hero alive, walked forward into the light. His left eye remained closed, always closed. A seal on power that could reshape the world. But a seal he'd learned to control, to maintain, to live with, because he'd learned the most important lesson. Overwhelming power didn't make you a hero. How you used it did. The Demon King Agency's rooftop at sunset, Izuku stood looking out over Tokyo. The city sprawled beneath him, lights beginning to twinkle as evening approached, footsteps behind him. He didn't turn around. His observation senses told him it was his crew. Todoroki stood to his right, Bakugo to his left, Kirishima, Uraraka, and the others arrayed behind them. Ready for patrol, Captain? Todoroki asked. Someone else navigate, I'll get us lost. Bakugo snorted. You got us lost last time we let you navigate. We ended up in Osaka somehow. That was one time. It was 3 times. Semantics. They laughed, genuine warmth between the crew, the bond forged through battles, through struggles, through facing death together. But seriously, Kirishima said, think we'll ever face someone as strong as All for One again? Izuku was quiet for a moment. Then, hope not, that was boring. Everyone stared at him. Boring. Bakugo exploded. You nearly died. The city was destroyed. That was boring? Yeah, he wasn't strong enough to make me try very hard. You opened both eyes, only for 3 minutes. If I'd needed to go longer, that would have been a real fight. They all stared at him in disbelief. Then, Todoroki started laughing, a genuine, amused sound. What's funny? Izuku asked. You. You're impossibly powerful, completely directionally challenged, and somehow the best captain we could ask for. Obviously. That's why you're all following me. Arrogant bastard, Bakugo muttered. But he was smiling. Uraraka floated up to sit on the roof's edge. So where are we patrolling tonight? North District, Momo said, pulling up a map. Reports of a villain group causing trouble. How many? Izuku asked. Maybe 20? I'll handle it. Rest of you can watch. Oi, we want to fight too, Kirishima protested. Fine. Rock, paper, scissors for who gets to fight with me. That's not fair. You always win. Should have gotten stronger then. They bickered good-naturedly as the sun set fully. The city lights spread below them like stars. Finally, Izuku stood. "All right, let's go. Someone point me north." "That way," 3 people said simultaneously, pointing. Izuku walked in the completely opposite direction. "That's south!" everyone shouted. "No, it's not. The compass says..." "Compasses lie." Bakugo grabbed Izuku by the collar and physically turned him around. "This way, idiot!" "Oh, right." They left the rooftop together, the demon's crew heading out on another patrol, another night of protecting the city, another opportunity to grow stronger together. As they disappeared into the Tokyo streets, Izuku's left eye remained closed, a reminder of the power sleeping within him, power that could destroy nations, power that had erased All for One's legacy. But power that, for now, wasn't needed, because Izuku Midoriya had everything he needed, a crew worth protecting, a goal worth pursuing, and the strength to face whatever came next. He was the king of hell, the strongest swordsman in the world, the one-eyed demon, and he was finally, truly, at peace.
Huge shout out to the absolute legends fueling the fire. You guys aren't just members, you're the heartbeat of this community. Thank you for believing in the vision and keeping the momentum at an all-time high. Pro heroes, the front line, the ones who step up and set the pace. These legends are the backbone of the operation. Dylan the Proud, DA, Fire 05. Symbols of peace, the pillars of the community. These titans bring the stability and the hype that keeps us standing tall through it all. Kenneth Ponteris, Neostar Productions, Asael Cardenas, Shaquan Simmons, Agroxa 298, Elijah Saunders, Peter Hamilton, Freddy_Rose, Omega, Toxic Rune, Chris Talley, Alexander Thompson, Remorsefuls, Black Vein, Joshua Hedrington, Aaron Abercrombie, Drift Escator, Akino Himajima, Corey Tokars, Jan, X0 Hope 3656, Devin Black, Crow, Roberto Ramos Di Cristina, Dasher Games, Ray Von Crimson River, Dante Allister, Adam Yonkers, Blood Saints, Donna Cafe, Zeph, KC, Howie60, Ignacio, Albert, Hope of the Universe. The ultimate defenders. These are the celestial tier legends whose support reaches beyond the stars. They are the final spark that lights up the dark. Sean Brooks, Keyshawn, Debbie Vo, LS Morningstar, Marl, Spintown, Greg Green, James, Kiwanyan Thompson, Juan, Zeno KJ.
If you enjoyed seeing a mosshead Deku dominate the hero course, slash that like button immediately. I have more insane anime crossovers brewing, so don't get lost like Zoro. Hit subscribe and ring the bell to stay on course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next timeline.